Okay, so I think I'm live, but it's been so long since I've been live, there's probably not going to be anybody watching, for at least for a while. So I had a bunch of things to do. Oh, I was wrong, there's 4 of you already. I've just had a lot of stuff to deal with, which means I didn't get around to streaming for a bit. But as the Terminator said, I'm now back, or something to that effect. And so this is labeled as video number 250B because, of course, there was a that's right, you can't kill the Kurgan. there was a video number 250, but we discussed the pandemic into a little bit too much detail, and so that got taken down by YouTube, but it's on BitChute, so if you go on BitChute, look for the Kurgan thing, the Kurgan channel. There's only a couple of videos there. The ones that, 2 of them have been banned, 114 and 250. 114, I was discussing the various negative aspects of certain nationalities, and I think an American gentleman of overweight proportions got upset. And the more recent one was just auto-flagged, I think, by YouTube. So we are now going to be discussing a completely neutral, happy topic of, oh, Greenie, oh, I missed Greenie, of the Ice Age. But if you'll excuse me, I have to blow my nose. Off camera, I'll spare you that little detail. There we go. So, hello Caleb. Oh, I've got all the cool people here. Cooper, yes, and Douglas, Slanty, Backstabber. Oh, I'm so happy to be back. And we even have the downvoter. He's popped up right away. He must have missed me. Right, so what I wanted to cover was the coming Ice Age, and if you know that, oh, I'm so touched. Greenie says, and Henry, and Daniel. I mean, it's like, it's all the good guys are here. Well, except for Daniel, you know, he's Portuguese, but he can't help that. Anyway, as I was saying, so the coming Ice Age. Now, if you've read about the, you know, I mentioned I was going to be coming live on the Kurgan channel on Telegram, on Gab, and on Social Galactic. So hopefully you understand that we're talking about 2 different types of Ice Age. They, we even have the Chief Gamma here, who's dodged the you know, the intervention for him to become a proper Catholic, which I've offered to him, and he said he would do it. But like Milo, you know, he pulled out right at the end. It's so sad. Yes, I know you'll all make jokes about that. Hello, Denny. Elia, all the good people are here. I'm very touched. And AJ. All hail Kurgan. May he live with olive oil and wine in his kitchen and the passionate love for Catholicism in his heart. Well, thank you. That's touching. And TVCL, we've got a full house here. It's awesome. So as I was saying, there's 2 types of Ice Age. The one that you probably most understand is the Ice Age, which is I don't know how many of you know this, but of all the bullshit models of global warming, the only model of global weather patterns that has been something like 98% accurate over the last 40 years was created by the Russians. No surprise there. Hello, Rakir. And this model is based on the sun's activity rather than pretty much anything else. And what does this 98% effective model of the global weather tell us? It tells us that as of this year, 4 phases of the magnetic fields of the sun are all going out of phase. The last ice age, the big one, that was when 2 phases went out of phase. Now we've got all 4 going out of phase. So it's going to be a chilly one. However, I don't think, and I may be wrong, I could well be very deadly wrong about this, but I don't think that that's going to be a thing that changes from one week to the next. I think it's going to be a little bit gradual. The reason I say I could be deadly wrong is because there is, of course, the pole shifting to take into account. The North Pole and the South Pole have shifted positions many times over the various millennia, and no one really knows what happens when that happens, how it happens, and so on. But think about it. The Earth has got a magnetic field. The Sun's got a 4 different magnetic fields, and now the Sun's magnetic fields all suddenly go out of whack. Seem to make sense that the magnet that is Earth would also flip. And if that happens, by the way, something I predicted 26 years ago in the book The Face on Mars, I said back then, 26 years ago, that given the gradual change of the magnetic North Pole, which has sort of been inching along and moving out of the way, the magnetic North Pole at the time, I think, was about 900 nautical miles away from the actual physical North Pole. And it had moved that way over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And I said, it's not a linear progression. It's a logarithmic, or it's a curve. It's not a line. If you're going to graph it, it's a curve, and it seems to be accelerating. So I predicted 26 years ago that if I was right, the next 20 years it was going to accelerate a lot. And no one really knows exactly when it's going to come to a point where it flips the poles. But I do believe that when that happens, that it will be sudden. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that the flipping of the poles is going to be a sudden shift. Such a huge sudden shift in our whole magnetic field is going to come with huge, huge tectonic events. We are seeing earthquakes all over the place. We're seeing volcanoes going off all over the place for the last year, 2, 3 years. How much of this is due to that? How much of this is due to HAARP, the American super secret stuff that I've known about since the 90s, which can affect weather, which can cause earthquakes, and which is based on some of the Tesla technology that nearly took down a bunch of buildings with a little tiny, about a mouse-sized machine that he'd built, which just kept boosting resonance. And he had the whole street shaking, basically, by having it put on a pillar that he had, which was one of the foundational pillars of the buildings that he was working on before, he had the fire that put him out of business, pretty much. But anyway, whether it's HAARP stuff, whether it's natural stuff, the fact is that if you're going to have a sudden pole shift, you're going to have massive tsunamis, earthquakes, so on and so forth. We had a little earthquake not too long ago. I wasn't at home, actually. I was in the car, and I had the car idling, and I was sort of like tut, 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 tut. And I thought, oh man, maybe there's something wrong with my car. I need to take it in. That's all I felt about it. But I was near the school, and I saw a mother coming out with her kids, and she said, well, that's why it shook. It's the end of the day and you're out of school, so the earth shakes to thank us. It's like, what is she talking about? And I got home and my wife was like, oh, did you feel the earthquake? I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I've been through a couple of little earthquakes before, so it wasn't a big deal for me, but it was there first. And it's really funny one, because the monkey, one of our kids, she's like, well, if I'm going to die, I want to take all my favorite things out of the house first. Because her mother told her, okay, let's just all get out of the house, which is the smart thing to do. But I mean, this house has been around since the foundations of it, at least, have been around since the 700s. So it's, it's a very old building. I think it'll be fine. But, given that the 4 magnetic phases of the sun are going out of whack, given that there could be a pole shift, that is a big enough whack impact that you gotta think about it. Secondly, there is the social ice age. We're being isolated. you're being socially ostracized, especially if you haven't taken a certain medicine, inverted commas. And whether you have or haven't, social distancing and all that, it's making it, it's a social ice age, and it's just terrible. So that's one of the things that's happening, and it entails a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that you have to take into account, and your own personal situation is going to be, different from everybody else's. Now, the advice that I'm going to give here is geared for the people that I think are the most important, and that I think possibly in that most important people strata are the ones that really count the most, and that are families with young children, families with children. Now, if you happen to be a single woman who's just busy knocking back margaritas as we talk here, hello Greenie, or or whatever, don't despair. It doesn't mean I'm ignoring all of you or anything. Just take from it what you can given your particular situation. Now, keep in mind that a young family that doesn't have a lot of money necessarily, that has got young kids, they're the most vulnerable. They're also the most important people, especially if they're, unjabbed people that are somewhat socially ostracized as well in terms of the social situation. So if you're a single guy, of course, your situation is a lot more comfortable because, hey, all you got to look after really is yourself. But, if you're a couple that has got small kids or something like that, that's kind of what I'm aiming to look to saving the most. So take what applies to you, figure out some things that maybe don't apply to you, and fill them in with other information. And if you've got questions, put them in here. I'll get to, as you guys know, I usually read the whole chat at some point. So if you've got a pertinent question that applies just to you or whatever, that's fine. Okay, I see one. Caleb is I will go back. There's other comments, but Caleb says, can you expound on the weather manipulation tech? For those of you that are a bit young, in the early 90s, when the internet was first around, it was all over the place. That it's called HARP, harmonic something resonance, whatever. Basically, it's in North America and Canada. They've hidden the stuff sort of in pretty inaccessible areas, but they've created, like I said, using technology that was originally stolen from Nikola Tesla, because when he died, the FBI and whatever, they took all his stuff, all his papers. And there was a bunch of stuff there that, Nikola had said, like he could create the Tunguska meteorite. Might have been a Tesla experiment, actually, because he basically said he could, like, take out any country in the world from wherever he was. And he was a master of resonance, and what that guy could do was, we're still catching up to a lot of the things that he did. So there are ways to, and it's got to do with scalar technology. Scalar technology, if you don't know what that is, you should look at some of the, or subscribe to the Digital Kurganet video series, because I talk about that stuff in there, Thomas Bearden stuff and so on, and explain all of this stuff a bit more in there. So yeah, DARPA, CERN, HARP, there you go. It's got two A's though, Greenie, HAARP, so you can Google some of that stuff. But anyway, the point is, if you are a family with kids, let's look at the practicalities. Ideally, where would you want to be? Well, the ideal location is hard to tell, because if you're going to have a sudden pole shift, who knows? Antarctica used to have tropical forests on it. It's pretty chilly now. It's got a couple of kilometers of ice on top of it. And, that happened as a result of some pole shift somewhere along the line. So you might say, well, I'm lucky because I'm, in Brazil, pretty much on the equator. That might be okay. But who knows? Maybe you're on a fault line. Check out where the fault lines are. I mean, one of the areas before I moved to Italy, one of the areas that I was looking at, and I'm looking at my map up here, was actually Panama. And there was a bunch of reasons for that, which some of those reasons suddenly changed, so it was no longer really viable. But the problem that I had with Panama, which was one of the reasons that made me hesitate, is that it's on a really crappy tiniest tectonic plate, which is in, it's a conjunction of many tectonic faults. So it would be not ideal at all in case of a sudden pole shift. Also because Panama is a tiny little country that is a little strip that connects North and South America in a tectonically very unsound location. So it might just disappear under the water in one sudden swoop. And also the thing I was looking at was essentially an island. I was thinking to buy a little island there, which not smart, not the thing to do if you're worried about tsunamis. Now, the Karoo, which is South Africa's sort of middle of nowhere flat land that doesn't really have anything growing on it, tectonically, that's one of the safest places on Earth. But who knows where that would shift? It might end up being where we have Antarctica now, or it might end up cracking. And either way, it's not a very fertile land. I mean, unless you can eat rocks, the Karoo is pretty bad. So, one place is pretty much similar to another. I wouldn't, like I said, one of the reasons that was really make me hesitate about Panama was based on this. And I do think there's a possibility that there is a sudden pole shift in the next 20 years. Could be tomorrow, it could be 40 years from now, could be 100 years from now. No one really knows. But I think there's a likelihood that it would happen in the next 5, 10, 20 years. I would say it is possible that it would happen. In which case, where I'm at, I kind of roll the dice and hope it's good enough. That's pretty much my attitude to that. With regard to the actual cold and the weather, it would be ideal for you to be in a place that is currently fertile enough to grow your own food, if possible, and in a somewhat temperate zone. In that respect, I'm pretty good. Italy has got a Mediterranean temperate climate, but it's already a little bit too chilly for my tastes in winter. And now if we're going to get an ice age, and assuming we get the ice age without the pole shift, which I think is probably what's going to happen for at least a good 5, 10, 15, maybe 20, maybe the rest of my life, I don't know. But say 2 decades of ice age happening gradually without the pole shift, where I'm at is probably going to become freezing cold to the point that growing food is going to be an issue. It's going to be a problem. So unless we find a way to survive like the Eskimos, it's possible. Human beings are resilient. You can always find a way to make do, but it's not necessarily ideal. I'm in northern Italy, so there are mountains not too far away. It does snow here already as it is, so that there could be some negatives there. So what do you do in the meantime? Well, unless you're already in a perfect position, try and get geographically in the best position you can for wherever you are. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, make sure that you have a way to heat your premises, your home, that is sustainable. And if you're hooked up to the electric grid, that's not sustainable. Because if they want to kill us all off, they switch off the electric grid. Or if you have the earthquakes and the electric grid goes out, you got to burn something. And you'll notice that they're making all these rules that you can't burn wood and you can't have wood stoves, and they're going to fine you if you buy a wood stove in Germany or somewhere else. And it's coming everywhere, that. So get what you need now while you still can, if you can. If you can't, build one, borrow one, steal one, do whatever. So, yeah, I don't do well in cold climates either, Greenie, but, it is what it is. So get yourself whatever you need that's going to provide you with power and heat. Which brings me to another topic, which is the food, heating, wood stove, cooking, fire situation. And of course, also that can be thought of in 2 ways. The fire to heat yourself, the fire to defend yourself. It's all fire, right? So again, geographically, try and pick a place where you can have fire, where you can make fire, where you can pick the type of fire making tools that you prefer, if possible. And again, I suggest you think laterally. Wood stoves that can heat your house are an option, at least in Italy. I think they are in many other countries in the world. So look into that. And that's an important consideration. Now, what if, well, you're stuck in a city, you don't have the money to buy a piece of land or a farm or something like that. You've got little kids, you don't have resources that you can rely on or whatever. My advice would be beg, borrow, and steal whatever you can to buy it. You don't need a huge amount of land to grow your own food. I've got more land than I know what to do with. I genuinely can't farm all the land I've got at the moment. No way. And if I could probably feed a small army. But, you know, that's something else. But again, my advice would be do whatever you can to secure the best place that you can. If you're in a big city, try and move to a small city or to a small town or to a little village. If you can keep your job / work / money coming in, I would rather be renting a little house in, you know, but fuck nowhere in the Appalachians or whatever, you know, in a little town than, you know, living in New York or Los Angeles or London or Paris or Rome or, you know. And of all those, I'd still pick Rome because Rome is the smallest one, you know. So do what you can. Learn how to do stuff. And that means not just farming stuff, but DIY stuff, survival stuff. How do you skin an animal? How do you hunt an animal? How do you cure the meat? How do you preserve the food that you grow so that it lasts for months instead of days? There's a lot of stuff to learn. Buy a bunch of physical books that will help you in that task. So you should have a little library. You should have, but you know, the most important thing is the geographic location. So if you can change that, do what you need to change that to do that. And, you know, there are some people, now, I would never suggest do the wrong thing, of course. Keep everything legal and correct. But I know of people that have borrowed a bunch of money after they made sure that they could move to a country that didn't have some kind of relationship with the original country that they came from. But borrowed a bunch of money and then ran off somewhere else, bought a little place somewhere else, and said bye to the bank that they got the money from. Now that would be wrong and illegal, of course. Never suggesting you would do such a thing because, as you all know, I'm a law-abiding citizen. But just saying, you know, desperate people do desperate things. And I know particularly of one family that has sort of done that. And it's very tough because the place they bought didn't even have running water and doesn't have electricity. Nevertheless, they've made it livable, and it's cold. It's cold on top of it. They've made it livable. They're surviving. They're an older couple and they don't have children, but they are an older couple. And unfortunately, the man of that couple is not what I would call a worker. So the lady of the couple is doing a lot of the stuff. And but, you know, they made it work. They made it happen. So I'm not telling you that you should move young kids to a place that is cold and doesn't have running water and electricity, especially if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. That's, you know, that would be probably a mistake. Especially since I think you've probably got a few years' time left. If you're willing to, you know, duck and dive and dodge and do what you need to do, those are the baseline suggestions. Make sure you have a way to heat your home, yourself. Make sure that you have a way to make fire for food, heating, self-defense. You know, in the Ice Age, a lot of creatures get hungry. I'm not just talking about the four-legged ones. So you might need some fire to keep away the predators. Now, that all is the individual stuff. But let me make it very, 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 very clear. When the stuff gets bad, if you do get a proper ice age, if the ice age that we're all currently experiencing gets worse, eventually you're going to need community. You're going to need to be surrounded by people that think like you. That's difficult to find, and I would put that as a priority even over geography. Now, as it happens, I'm one of those people that's like, fuck it, I'm gonna move to wherever and then I'll create the community. And I'm doing just that. And it's working. It's not easy. It's very hard. Most human beings will not have the ability to do that, or to even gather one or two people that think like they do. I am slowly but surely gathering people around me that think as I do, or that at least will follow my lead, that will do as they're told. And I make that very clear from the beginning. If you want to be part of this little community, it's not a democracy, it's an empire, and I'm the emperor. That's it. Take it or leave it. And I genuinely have gotten no problem with people that will not take it and will leave it. I don't want those people anywhere near me anyway. And the people that do take it are, have demonstrated themselves over time to be absolutely reliable. They're all humans. They all have their flaws. They all have their faults. I do critique those as I try to critique myself. I'll accept their criticisms if they've got some to offer that are valid. And I'll tell them to go fuck themselves when they're not valid, or when I don't care, because I'm seeing a bigger picture that maybe they're not seeing. So that is the important thing. One of the most important things, so I've given you the basics of the geography, I've given you the basics of the community. You need to have that. One of the most important things that nobody can talk about in great detail, that nobody's allowed to speak about in any detail really, is that if the shit hits the fan, hypothetically, we're now talking about a post-apocalyptic or a apocalyptic scenario where you've got roaming bands of zombies. And well, what happens when you got zombies? You got to take out zombies. And if you're smart about it, you don't wait until there's a whole wave of zombies right upon you, because then it's too late, right? You got to divert the zombies. You got to give them something else to think about, someone else to eat, something else to, make it a problem for them to come and eat your brains. So that's, I think you can possibly think a little bit further on that. You might hear some zombies right now because two of the little dudes are not in bed yet and the wife's doing what she can. But if I need to help her, I might just pop out for a second. In the meantime, I see you guys have been talking quite a bit, so let me just quickly scroll back up and see what I've missed. Where were we? We were about here. Scorpio says hello to Greeny Houdini and then says, oh, hello to Kurgan too, I guess. Well, look at that. Look at that. The Gamma in Chief greets me second. It's terrible. And Daniel Pereira says you can find the rate of change on the back of a topographic map in the compass declination information. Yeah, no, he's talking about the magnetic north. Michael Peckar, Chad joining us. AJ says, wow, this is very interesting. I'm excited for the future. Those grounded in truth will survive while the parasites have one choice, die or convert. That's a very optimistic way of looking at it. I don't think that those grounded in truth will all survive. I think a bunch of them will die. I think there's a lot of stuff stacked against them, but Greeny Houdini says that Operation Paperclip is still in effect. Yeah, I don't think it ever, I think it went well for them and they won, really. Beat Your Head In says, remind me of the Walls of Jericho. Yeah, the harp stuff. Daniel Pereira has got what the acronym HARP stands for. It stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. That's right. Greedy says, rest in peace, Tesla. Indeed. Carlos Santos Ramos says, come late. Is global warming not going to happen then? I was buying sandals. Yeah, I'm afraid you wasted your money on your sandals, dude. You better buy some thick socks to go with those. TVCL says, yeah, what the fuck is going on with CERN? I don't know, but I think it's pretty close to Davos, isn't it? That's where all the demon gathering happens. Greeny Houdini says, I was looking into Georgie Rose, the man who discovered the D-wave NREM sleep, and supposedly people all around the world dreamed of him. He works for NASA, DARPA, and CERN. Oh, that's scary. In which case it would explain why we're all suddenly getting these like moments of tiredness that's come upon you quite suddenly, why our long-term memory seems to be getting worse. And we picked a location that doesn't have any 5G towers. So, but if you look at Michael Persinger and telepathy, there's a 2-hour video on there. Again, I don't mean to keep blowing my own horn, but you should really subscribe to the Digital Kurganet if you're interested in this stuff while it's around and exists on the internet. There's going to be another series starting soon on how the mind works. That's going to cover a lot of interesting stuff. So, TVCL says, I wonder how clear-thinking, strong and competent natural man would be without all of the lies and background fuckery going on, like Adam and Eve. Oh, they would be a lot healthier, a lot stronger. They would live a lot longer. It really would be, I reckon that the average age, without all the poisons they're giving us on a daily basis, would probably start to approach certainly over the 100 years old, and I reckon it would maybe be over, I think quite quickly it would get to about 120, 130 years old, and quite quickly might even hit that, in a few generations, probably almost 200 years of age, I think would be more standard. Daniel Pereira says, Canada is tectonically safe, no earthquakes. Unfortunately, Canada has got a very negative thing going for it. It's full of Canadians, as last I heard, and quite a lot of Chinese too. But worst of all, it's got Justin Trudeau in it. So until you've got that, the gay waves are just everywhere there. He says, Neanderthal weather is where it's at. Well, and Greeny says, I read an article about how they wanted to put nanotech in salad dressing. Yeah, that's coming everywhere. They're going to put nanotech in pill form, and that means it can be swallowed. And you think they're not going to put that in food? They're already talking about that. So that's why grow your own food. You're going to have to learn to do that with proper actual seeds that produce things that have seeds that you can replant. So in other words, not Monsanto shit. AJ says it's true. Here in Idaho, they're already trying to ban wood stoves. Thankfully, most people aren't listening. Yeah, but the companies that sell them will have to be forced to listen pretty soon. So, Carlos Santoramo says we're heating the house, burning wood in a stove right now. Viva España. He says Syracuse, New York is the safest place of refuge for natural disasters in the U.S., but all the people there are leftists, so every day is a nightmare. I used to live there. Don't ever go there. Yep. You see how geographically doesn't count if your community is full of zombies. Greeny says, this new year coming up, I'm finding a place in the mountains. Lots of New Yorkers have moved to Texas. Well, I don't know about the mountains, if it's going to get cold, but Dances with Logo says, The Lost Ways, buy it. I'm guessing that's a book. Thank you, Dances. As usual, she's being very efficient and proactive. In fact, I am going to copy that, and I'm actually going to go look what it is right now. The Lost Ways. Let's just quickly see on Amazon. And let's see if we can get this out of the way first so I don't type some random crap. And Greeny says people are leaving California too. Lots of Transformers have okay. What? Lots of Transformers have okay in them. Can extract. Right. Have oil. Yeah. They do. Not sure about what Transformers exactly she's talking about, but anyway, let's see the Lost Ways. Let's see that. By Claude Davis. Claude Davis, is that it? Dilo, is that the Lost Ways? Okay, it's got 3 stars out of 2 people. 4 stars out of 14 peoples. That's the third edition. I'm always suspicious of the newer editions in books. But Unicorn Cupcake, it's a gamma frenzy tonight. How many gammas have we got in here? There's 30 of you watching. Finding community is the toughest thing for me at the moment. That's nationalist. Yeah, it's tough for everybody, mate. You know, like there's a lot of zombies, a lot of brainwashed people, a lot of leftists, a lot of commies, a lot of stupid people. And you know, stupid people are dangerous, ultimately. TVCL, thanks. Dilo. Greenie says, that's what I'm doing, Kurgan. I'm going to start homesteading with like-minded friends. Yeah, that is what you should do. Caleb says, I recently found out that there are several Sede families relative close to me. I'm planning to get in touch as soon as possible. Absolutely. And look, guys, I know I keep pushing the Catholic thing, and, you know, you're all mostly Protestant, atheist, agnostic scum. But I don't know a single Sede guy, you know, proper Catholic, sedevacantist, sedeprivationist. I genuinely am not aware of a single one that is, you know, clot shot inhibited, that has taken the death jab or anything like that. I may be wrong. I'm sure there is one or two somewhere, but I, honest to God, do not know a single one. And their priests are just hardcore guys. So I can't recommend my religion enough, even just from a purely practical point of view. And, you know, you've got 2,000 years of history that shows you that Catholics pretty much get shit done. You know, they have achieved a lot of things. They invented science. They invented the scientific method. They created the most beautiful cathedrals, the most organized, crime-free part of the world on Earth. Yes, that was Europe before it, you know, collapsed. Woolly Ram enters the room. Anyone here heard of the Koan thing? Is I've still got your chat. So where was I? Yeah, Cordell was talking about funding 12 by 12 cabins with water source on the property with a handful of trustworthy people is a great way to make a bug out property. And I was saying, funnily enough, just in the very early stages of starting to look at doing exactly that, which is I'm sourcing a decent property. There's a couple of people that are already looked into that to some extent. That has all the right attributes. I've already got my own property, but now the thing is to create this community and make it a sustainable, big, large enough community. We need a property that has the ability to feed everybody if it's properly cultivated, that has the ability to house everybody, which is going to be a bit challenging because building regs in Italy are very strict. But if we build it as a glamping type place with, you know, about 20 or 30 little cabins that are going to be relatively small, you know, 30, 40 square meters per cabin, but self-contained, enough to, like, for you to sleep, heat, you know, sleep, be warm, and cook your own food, all self-sustainable. And there's like 30, 40 of these things on a property as a glamping grounds, and investors can purchase one or two of the cabins. So as long as the world keeps going, they can just rent out those cabins as an income source to recoup some of the money on their investment. But in reality, if and when the shit hits the fan, they're like, hey, that's my cabin, I'm moving there. And the idea is to have also a self-contained central building that can be used as storage, school for children, homeschool, and you know, surgery in case, you know, if there are doctors there that want to operate within that community. So that is what I'm busy trying to do. And if you want to fund it, if you want to be part of it, you know, I'm not hard to find. Just ping me an email or whatever. Minimum entry level sort of investment is probably going to be in the region of 30, 40, 50K to buy one of these little glamping cabins. But, you know, that's not happening for a while. It's going to be a year, 2, 3. So if you're thinking of moving to Italy and becoming, and one of the requirements I'm going to ask is that people are sedeprivationist if possible, you know, sedevacantist, whatever, if at all possible. It's not going to be a strict thing where, you know, oh, if you're not sede, you can't be part of it, but it's going to be something that I'm definitely going to put as number one thing on the list for you to talk to me about first. And if you're not Italian, if you don't have an Italian passport, moving to Italy is not an easy thing to do in terms of paperwork. It's a very easy thing to do if you don't give a shit about the paperwork, and but then theoretically you could get into trouble, and you need to have a job, you need to have some kind of income, so there's some steps you need to take, and you need to have a piece of paper that's called a nulla osta, which is no objection. It's translated as more or less no objection to you living in Italy, which you need to get from the consulate of the country you start off from. So you really need to get that first. You need to get a fiscal code, and you need to get that first from the embassy or the consulate in your country before you even think of moving to Italy. And then you have to demonstrate that you wouldn't be a burden on the state. So you either have to have a large chunk of money, or have a job that is demonstrable, that you've got enough funds in the bank, and so on. Which, of course, if you've got kids, becomes more complicated and so on. But I'm just letting you know, I am going to go ahead and do that, probably with people that live near here already or whatever, but everyone's welcome that is of the same mindset. Greeny says, yes, lots of people will be drained in these coming times. Major energy shifts happening. Yeah. Wooly, on a practical note, get used to eating less and washing in cold water. Always, the uplifting morale booster there, Wooly. Fuck that, I plan to have a way to heat the water. I don't like the cold. How the Mind Works, female edition. It doesn't. That's Dances with Logos, who I think knows me just a little too well. I didn't say that, ladies. It was Dances, the high priestess of the Kurgan cult, that said it. AJ says, yes, that I'm right. He was being optimistic when he says that people rooted in truth will all survive. Yeah. And Greeny Houdini says, Logos, screw you. I'm not sure what she's... Oh, Dances with Logos. That's right, because she was saying how the female mind works. It doesn't. And Greeny says, Logos, screw you. You see, Dances has accepted reality. Greeny's still fighting it along with her margaritas, but there you go. TVCL said cold water can be very good for you, and that's true. The Russians swear by it, that you should bathe in cold water whenever you can, and take cold water showers to prevent you from getting a cold or to cure a cold, and that works all very well for them Russians. But I am more like the Japanese. I prefer those super hot baths, just burn everything away. That's what I like. Greeny says, LOL typos. Dances replies with penance. Cordell just bought the book that Dances advised, which was, what was it called again? The Lost Ways. There's various editions of it. Dances, if you know which one is best, can you let us know, please? Rodolfo Piceno says, where do you fall in the social sexual hierarchy? Why? You trying to be my boyfriend? Who cares? And Chad says, Kurgan, is your opinion on kerosene if wood isn't an option for heating a home? Well, that's a very interesting question. I lived on a farm for a couple of years when I was a kid with my parents that did not have electricity. It had running water, but it wasn't potable. The water was from a salt pan, so you could wash your dishes and stuff in it, you could bathe in it, but you couldn't drink it because it was basically like seawater, or even saltier than that. I don't remember it as being a terrible time. It was in Africa, so it was like a pretty sunny, warm place. It never really got particularly cold. It is the desert, so in the night it can get cold. At nighttime there it did get cold, but not like, snow-like level cold. I mean, it got as cold as sort of the beginning of winter in Europe, I suppose, but without snow, and it hardly ever rained, so you didn't have a problem of humidity or anything like that. Your clothes would dry even in winter easily. And we used to have these lanterns, these oil lamps, which essentially was paraffin was what was used to light them. So it was like a little wick that you turn the little handle and it would go up or down and make more or less flame, which the glass that made the lamp would light it. So get a couple of those. Kerosene, if burned indoors, I think produces toxic fumes, so you have to have good ventilation. But whatever worked for people in the 1800s, in the 1700s, in the 1500s, in the 1300s, it can still work for you. It worked for hundreds of years. Why not? Wooly says lag spike for anyone else. I think that's about the time when the thing dropped. And I'm doing it off the crappier level of internet, so there probably is a lag, but hopefully you're getting the whole stream without gaps in my talking, I hope. Douglas Jones says Bushcraft by Morse Kochanski and Bushcraft 101, the rest of the series, are great starting points for those who want to learn survival with minimal equipment and associated skills. Rodolfo Piceno says that yes, he wants to be my boyfriend. Well, you're in the wrong bar, aren't you, boy? Freeman on the Sand says, yeah, me too, Woolly Ram. Well, yeah, okay, you're all getting a delayed spike. Hopefully that's no longer the case, I hope. I don't know. Where There Are No Doctors and Where There Are No Dentists are both good books to have. Is that the name of the book, Cordo? Where There Are No Doctors and Where There Are No Dentists are both good books to have? I'm not sure which book you're referring to, Cordell, so if you can put that up there. Yeah, the stream dropped for a bit. Man down. Nope, I ain't man down. I'm still here. Denny says, I was thinking of moving north from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but maybe I should reconsider staying here. I don't know exactly where the Gulf Coast of Mississippi is, but quickly looking on my map, I would stay a little bit inland from the seashore. If you're like right on the beach, probably not ideal. In terms of the sudden pole shift, that's not ideal, but who knows? I'm not too far from the ocean myself, but I'm far enough that even a relatively big tsunami isn't gonna get to me. So even a pretty big one, a really big one. Now, if we're talking sort of Mars level hit by an asteroid tsunamis, then we're pretty much all fucked, and I doubt anyone will survive. So, but Freeman on the Sand says Cyber Polygon fucking up the internet again. Yeah. And Cordell says, lovely Italian internet finally crapped the bed. Rural internet falls over at the slightest breeze. First it was outages at Facebook, but the outages are spreading throughout the internet. They are indeed. And unfortunately, the net is so centralized now. Amazon, Google, or Facebook is 9% of it now. Yep. You're back for now, Kurgan. Hi there, that's Wooly Ram. They're slowly cracking down on global communications. Yes, of course they are. Which is why community is important. The next step would be get rid of your digital devices when you're having your little chats with your friends around the fire. Get back to the old days where you don't have everybody listening to you. But, those of you that have followed the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, you'll know that they've got drones up everywhere. If they want to be looking at you, they're looking at you. So, Cordell says, my brother-in-law's family has large acres of fertile soil for farming, thank God. Well, there you go. Then I suggest you live close to family if you can. Rodolfo says that decentralization is good. It is, indeed. Greenie says, I have an aunt that's from Italy. She married my uncle who works for NASA, unfortunately. Maybe she can get me in. Well, if she can, you're welcome to become part of the Kurganet, just bring it. And, yeah, I don't know, if your aunt is Italian, what does that mean? Wouldn't that mean that your mother or father or whichever side of the family is Italian too? I don't know. I don't know your situation there, but there is such a thing as sort of family line, what do you call it? So if you're some family, your grandparents were Italians or whatever, you can get an Italian passport. So you can look into that. Cordell says, I'm a plumber. The water would not be cold. That's right, Cordell. Kind of sorry you've got acreage there then. You should come and move here, you know. Go pick up Greenie Houdini on your way and just get in here. You can always make a hippie hot tub. Yeah. I was born in the wild. I know I'll survive, but I don't know if I can carry everyone. Yep, that's pretty much how I feel about it. Dancer says it was advertised on Social Galactic, so I bought it, but there's a prepper group there with lots of resources you could print out if you want to save the money. Okay, I'm guessing that's on the Old Ways or whatever that book is called. TVCL says to dancers with logos, there are still people on Social Galactics willing to talk to you? Up your game, woman. Very good. Greenie says, I don't know, Cord. I'll protect the dentist and my circle of free dental care. Yeah, that dentists are, you know, if you get a good dentist, that's a gold mine. You won't want it. Scorpio says, will the Kurganet fiefdom allow for the taking of concubines for the purpose of repopulating the planet, of course? Well, you know, I'd say that's sort of more of an individual choice, but I don't, you know, the ideal is proper family units. We're not Muslims, so it would certainly be frowned upon officially. Of course, we know that Catholic countries does a lot of bed hopping, so who knows? Oral hygiene is important. Indeed it is. Oral hygiene is no joke. Okay, where there are no doctors and where there are no dentists are both individual books. I'm probably going to buy those. Thank you, Cordell. So you guys have got a pretty good list of books now that we're looking at. The Lost Ways, which Dilo suggested, Where There Are No Doctors and Where There Are No Dentists by Cordell Mitchell. Well, not by Cordell Mitchell, but suggested by him. And what if you get an aneurysm and suddenly need your skull drained? If you get an aneurysm, you're pretty much fucked. You know, especially if you don't have a proper hospital nearby. AJ says, I'm an HVAC technician by trade. Making your house warm or cool is my job. I'm feeling good about my job security in the future. Although getting new equipment will likely be impossible soon. Yeah, if you think that HVAC is how you heat and warm a house in a shit-it-the-fan situation, I'm afraid, my American friend, that you're very much out of touch. Much like the Vietnamese army in Vietnam when they had golf courses in their base camps, while the little Viet Cong dug tunnels that would pop up inside their camps and kept killing people. Greenie says most medical students are indoctrinated, conditioned, and even most are blind to the bigger picture. Absolutely, to their superiors. My Italian aunt married into my family. I don't know then. I'm not sure that works for it, but you know, she probably has some connections that could help. I don't know, something along those lines. Or, you know, the easy way, just marry an Italian. Move to Italy for a holiday and just marry an Italian. Michael Pecker says, advice on leaving the land north of US without a loyalty test. The homeland calls for me and got access to farmland and family. Not sure if it's feasible. Michael Pecker, advice on leaving the land north of the US without a loyalty test. The homeland calls for me. I don't know where your homeland is, Michael. I'm assuming you're talking about the Kurganet, you know, the best country in the world eventually, once we build it. As for feasibility, I can't answer that, mate. You've got to answer that yourself. You know, you've got to figure out what works for you. Woolly Ram says, how hard is it to stockpile tools and repair parts for plumbing and cooling heating? Depends on your personal situation. My house here, if the sewage system is what worries me the most, because it's all biological and eco-friendly and all that, which is great and can last decades if something doesn't go wrong with it. But if something does go wrong with it, you're literally in a world of shit. So I don't know, you know. TVCL says looking for medieval living techniques is useful too. It is. Woolly Ram. When my brother, who is a neurological researcher and medical doctor, got the jab, I got a massive wake-up jolt. Yep. How can a neurological researcher and medical doctor get the jab? It's just scary, isn't it? Michael Pecker says the survival medicine handbook would be a must-have for anybody serious about shit the fan prepping. Okay. There's another book that was written by Piero San Giorgio, I think. I don't remember the name. TVCL says, e.g., how they used to use twigs for teeth, ash for cleaning hands, and kept hair clean simply by styling it. Yeah, you know, I've grown up in Africa, so I'm pretty much, I might not know everything, you know, no one knows everything, but, and I'm sure there's plenty of stuff I can learn, but I'm fairly confident that as long as I've got a knife, I can pretty much survive just about anywhere. The problem is it's not just me. You know, I've got 4 kids, I've got a wife, so I've got to think ahead a lot further than me with a knife. But if you're a single man, that's why I'm not going to waste too much time talking about what you guys should be doing. There's quite a lot of interesting book titles there, so, you know, keep those, write those down. AJ says, Woolly Ram, in my experience, it's not hard if you invest in good tools that provide multiple functions, but some tools do take time to move, like a pipe cutter or line set vac pump. No, you can get a pipe cutter. One of the guys that fixed up one of the little chalets around here, he basically used plastic pipes and a pipe cutter and joined everything together in about a half hour. So, you know, don't forget that functionality takes precedence over, you know, pretty much everything else. Greeny Houdini says, I'll join an Italian dating site. You don't need to do that. Just turn up in Italy, you know. I mean, you've got 90 days as an American, I think. If you can't get somebody to marry you in 90 days, Greeny, well, then you need to update your picture. Wooly Ram says, I think Michael Pecker was trying to ask how to leave Canada without getting jabbed. Oh. I thank you for explaining that. I wasn't sure that. That's a good loyalty test. Well, you got a really big border, and we know that America likes illegal immigrants. I mean, they give them what? I think Biden was talking about giving them 450 grand each or something for their trouble. I know that they're looking at the ones from the south, but, you know, just get a bit of a santan first or something. And yes, Woolly Ram, I'm looking to reduce my worldly possessions from fit into a suitcase to fit into a backpack. Physical books make that complicated, in which case, of course, you need to have some kind of digital reading device that can be charged. So if you get yourself a proper, decent, maybe solar powered, although some of them are scams. I got given as a gift a little solar power thing to power up your iPhone or whatever. Never worked. It was total shit. But you do get crank power things that do power phones and stuff like that. So, you know, get yourself maybe a decent phone that's got a camera on it, that's got, you know, GPS locator. Of course, it's also a tracking device, so it tracks you too, but most things are now. And get yourself one of those batteries that you can charge up with a little hand crank. They work. And that'll give you as many books as you want, that you can have a whole library in there, and you've got a way to keep it charged even if you're off grid. Yeah, just learn the most important words when you cross the border. No hablo inglés. That's backstabber giving advice to to, who was it that was asking about that? Oh, to Michael Pecker. Yeah. So are you? I think Israel is the same, isn't it? Is Canada and Israel now countries where you can't get out unless you've had the loyalty test? Is that it? Um, you know, I don't have a TV, or rather, we have a TV, but we don't use it as a TV. And I don't watch any news, and I don't even really read news on the internet. So I don't really know what's going on anywhere else because, frankly, I don't really care. I've got enough to worry about here for myself and my family and the people that are going to be part of my little Kurganet community. So AJ says, you make me think a lot, Kurgan. I've joined your Kurganet and hope I'll be properly educated once I'm through. Yeah, look, the Kurganet has got some eclectic stuff. I mean, the digital Kurganet has got some information on the Russian martial art, which is, sort of introductory. If you've got the book, the Sistema stuff that I talk about, the Sistema series in the digital Kurganet, doesn't... most of it is stuff that's not in the book. So hopefully it's a different take on it, put it that way. So it gives you another perspective. And, it takes years to get good at that stuff. So I'm giving you the basic information that you need to really start to very quickly be somewhat proficient in it. And if you're interested in that, then get the book. Unfortunately, or fortunately, my non-fiction books, The Face on Mars, The Sistema, and the Reclaiming the Catholic Church. Not Reclaiming the Catholic Church is available in Kindle, but the other two are not. The Face on Mars and Sistema are only available in physical format, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So if you're interested in that, get that. Then the Face on Mars stuff is giving you really ancient history of what I think happened on our planet, which will change your total. If you read the book, The Face on Mars, and then you also look at the video series, and once again, there's stuff in the video series that isn't in the book or presented differently or so on, and vice versa. So ideally looking at both. But if you take the time to look at the Face on Mars series and then take the time to also read the book to make sure that I'm not just making random hyperbolic shit up, but you actually investigate it. The one thing that the Face on Mars will do for you, it'll give you a complete wake-up call on to just how profoundly you've been lied to about everything, about our origins, about everything. And that's a good place to be because it completely throws you out of the usual mindset. Then there's the series on sedeprivationism, of course, which gives you the real history of the Catholic Church, what's really happening, what really did happen, how it came about, who the Freemasons are, who they were. It's giving you a lot of information that gets rid of any sort of Protestant nonsense you've been taught all your life. Just the lies that have been told to you about Catholicism specifically, because it is the religion that is the closest to the truth as far as I'm concerned. And, I get into that quite a bit more. And again, there's a book that can go with that if you want, Reclaiming the Catholic Church. And then there's the history series, or the lies that you've been told. It's a history series, and there's 5 different series within that series because there's so many things. So there's 5 different eras that go from prehistory all the way to present day, and there's going to be a minimum of at least 60 videos in that series split across the 5, so a dozen videos for each era at least, but there probably will be more down the line. Then the Trivium series, which TVCL has been doing, and that's also very, very popular. And the Trivium series is about how to learn pretty much anything. It's a methodology of learning, and the people are really enjoying it because they're very short, to the point videos that teach you something very, very useful that people are applying in their day-to-day life. So, and since the Systema series has reached the point where I can pause it, I'm going to start soon another series on how the mind works, which is again very, very interesting stuff, which will help you manage your own issues really, and your own weaknesses and your own strengths and other people's. So again, hopefully it's going to be a useful series. Greenie says, I found this Kurgan by mistake, but it wasn't a mistake, and I'm happy to find like-minded folks. Very good. Wooly says, the ancient civilizations you hint at seem utterly monstrous perpetrators of genocide. Yes, and nothing's really changed. And if you've ever come across a guy called Texarkana who used to write, he got basically scared off the internet by being told, stop talking about this stuff or we're going to wipe you out. So he stopped talking about it. But some of his stuff is archived, and I do talk about that again in the series, in the various history series. So yeah, Wooly Ram has obviously been looking at my stuff. And, you know, you got to keep in mind that we live under the dominion of the Prince of the Air. So this is a horrific prison planet whose big boss is literally the devil. So yeah, but you know, if you're Catholic, you understand that you're part of the church militant. You're a soldier behind enemy lines. That's our job. That's what we're here to do. Caleb says, Defeat Modernism on YouTube has also a lot of great videos on Freemasonry and the infiltration. He's a recent Sede who came up through the Norcos and SSPV. Oh, not aware of him. That'll be good. I'll look into it. A lot of good references here. I think what I'll do, if possible, once the video is done, I'm going to try and go through the chat, if I manage to do that, and pick out the books and the YouTube videos that you guys have picked up and put them on here. Oh, and Wooly Ram is correcting me and saying he wrote geocide, not genocide. Yes, they did geocide indeed. Mars was destroyed intelligently. The Phaeton object or planet was probably also the result of intelligent destruction, where we currently have an asteroid belt. And the Earth has certainly been subjected to bombardment from space of asteroids, as are reported in Genesis. So yeah, they are indeed monsters. And if you look at the ancient gods of the ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans, which are all the same gods, by the way, they're again monsters. And they have their own little feuds that go on even here on Earth, indicating that they possibly are from different factions of the survivors of the intersolar war that I believe took place. So, if you've got, is Ice Age Farmer still on YouTube? I don't know. If you've got specific questions for you personally that affect you personally or people close to you or whatever, now's the time to shoot them out. Greenie, you already know the solution. Pack your bags, travel light, get yourself to Northern Italy, find yourself a husband, or you know, become a sister wife. I don't know. Guys, honest, genuinely, people who do want to maybe move to Italy, you've got to do the groundwork first. You've got to do the paperwork first, and you have to start with your Italian consulate from your side. Where there's a will, there's a way. You know, I have moved continents, countries, changed jobs, changed careers, changed lives. It can all be done. Some of it was intentional. A lot of it was just because I'm a curious guy and not scared. And it's a bad combination for a lot of people, you know. I'm trying to teach my daughter, who's also very curious, that, you know, there's an old saying in Italian that so curious is the cat that it loses its paw, you know. Wooly Ram says, get out ASAP or prepare. For your personal location, Wooly, I would personally try and get out ASAP from there. You know, if I was given a choice of whether I would prefer to be in Israel or rural India. And, you know, I can't think of many places I'd hate to be in more than rural India. I think I'd take rural India in all honesty, because from there I can get anywhere. But your current location in Israel is it's not a good place. I would hate to be there. Greenie says, I've always seen myself 97, single and rich though. Well, there are other jobs that pretty looking women can do without getting married that will make them quite wealthy. Just saying, you know, desperate times. But I don't know that the paperwork for that's going to be all kosher. So Rakir says, no question, but want to say that this has been a really inspiring stream. Well, thank you. That's the point of it. You know, most human beings, unfortunately, are complete idiots. The few that aren't complete idiots are weak, and the ones that aren't idiots and weak are usually fucking evil. So I'm talking to the very narrow group of people that are not idiots, that hopefully are not weak, or at least are, you know, strong enough to like get a little boost and sort of go, no, fuck this, I'm going to win. And that are not evil. That means you basically have to be Catholic. Otherwise, you know, if you're not with me, you're against me. That doesn't come from me. That's Jesus. You know, I'm just trying to do the Lord's work and follow him properly. So there's got to be another way for Italian citizenship. There's plenty of ways. If you've got a couple of million, they'll give you citizenship. You can buy a passport from just about any country if you've got enough money. Or, you know, you've got to go through the steps. Have a job that you can get hired by somebody here. Keep in mind that everybody in Italy is supposed to be jabbed now if they want to work for a company. So, how hard is it to import arms to Italy? How much Italian should I learn? The more Italian you can learn, the better. Importing arms to Italy is a pain in the ass. It's a lengthy process. It can be done. But, you know, if you're I'm not sure what the situation is if you're a permanent resident, if you get residency. But if you get citizenship, you can buy guns here. I mean, Italy is, you can buy just about any gun you want. You know, the rules are pretty strict about, you know, it's not like America. You can't do like YouTube videos of you shooting in your backyard or whatever, you know. You can go shooting at the range or for hunting or whatever, but, and it's pretty controlled. But yeah, you can buy whatever firearm you want, pretty much. Greenie says that I'm funny and practical. Don't forget that. The forces of good are not weak. You are. Exactly. Exactly. You know, I can't, you know, there are parts of my life I don't want to put out in public, believe it or not, but Greenie says, I'll shovel coal on a barge to deter jabs. I've heard a new term for the vaxxed people have been referring to them as jabberwockies. That's a brilliant term, jabberwockies. That's excellent. Greenie is a principled woman. She would rather shovel coal than have an easier life. Backstabber says, hey Kurgan, how's the COVID restriction going there, by the way? People still happy with Mario Draghi, or are they holding his feet to the fire? Again, I don't want to say too much and get other people in trouble, but let's just say that there are, you know, I know a lot of people in a lot of areas, and there are people that are within the armed forces that, you know, there's a video going around of Rome, like thousands of people protesting. And, you know, I occasionally have conversations with these guys that are in the military. And I sort of say, hey, did you see that? A lot of protests. And I swear to God, the reaction is like, and so what? And I'm like, I know. Doesn't change a fucking thing, does it? And they go like, no. Now, it's impolite to say, well, what would you like them to do? You know, storm Parliament and hang everybody off a lamppost? I mean, we wouldn't want that. That would be inciting violence, right? And of course, you know, they're employed in the military, and they sort of go like, wow, we're here to keep the peace. You know, so interpret that as you will. But what I'm telling you is that in Europe, I cannot think And you know, if by Europe I'm sort of excluding Belarusia, Russia, that sort of stuff, I'm talking classical Europe. I'm happy to be in Italy. Yeah, they've got all these restrictions. You know, there's probably going to come the thing that they've got in Austria now, that they're going to force everybody to take the jab. Yeah, you might get that okay in Austria. They've got a history of, you know, putting people on trains and shit. Like Germany, Germany's now going to do it, and everybody just follows along because they're Austrian or German. But you know, the last guy that united Italy was Garibaldi, and that took a lot of doing. And even though Italy is supposedly united, go and ask a Sicilian what they think about a Roman, or a Roman what he thinks about a Piedmontese, or a Piedmontese what he thinks about a Venetian, or a Venetian what he thinks about an Abruzzese, or an Abruzzese what he thinks about a Puglian. Good luck with that. Italians are, a lot of them are poses, a lot of them are weak, a lot of them are like, but again, I'll tell you another little story that I've heard about, you know, of a village in Italy. I don't live there. It's a place somewhere in Italy. I'm not going to say where because again, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But there used to be the sort of chief of police there of the town. It was kind of an arrogant asshole who was very sort of, shall we say, English or American. A box ticker. He would give you shit for this, that, the other. Oh, you don't have that in regulation, you're going to get a fine. Oh, you need to do this and you get a fine. And, you know, he was a big, strong, tall guy, you know, not a scared dude. And he was just giving the people in the town a lot of shit because he was being a stickler for detail, a good pencil pusher that ticked all the boxes. And it just so happens that one evening, he had a bag put over his head and the shit kicked out of him. He spent 2 weeks in hospital and then he was transferred somewhere else. And the new chief of police was a much more easygoing guy who just let the things that you can let slide. And, you know, worried himself with serious stuff like assaults, domestic abuse, robbery, that sort of stuff. That's Italy. So, yeah. Wooly Ram says, do you need to lubricate Italian officials with gifts and the like? Not really. You see, if you just get stopped by a cop and try to offer them a bunch of cash, you'd probably end up in jail. You'll probably end up in deep shit for trying to bribe an official. Because it's too blatant. And it's like, it's considered rude. You know, it's like, you don't fucking bribe me. Fuck you. You think you can buy me for like a couple $100? Fuck off. I'm going to put you in jail. But if you talk to me nicely, you're not an arrogant asshole, you realize you've done something wrong, and you don't make a big fuss about it, if I'm an asshole, I'm just going to keep pushing it, and tough shit, you're going to have to take the consequences. But if I'm not an asshole, I might just say, well, you know, look, I mean, fuck it. You know, let's try and find a way out for you. So it's a little bit that, it's a little bit who you know, it's a little bit what they know about you. Because, you know, I'm a very nice guy. I'm a very nice man. I try to be friendly to everybody. But if you're going to try and, you know, I don't know, beat one of my kids or fucking talk shit to my wife or something, well, then you're going to find another side of me. You know. And I'm a pretty open book, so people realize that shit very, very quickly with me. And smart people, you know, that are, you know, whatever, again, military people, whatever, they look at me and they sort of go, that guy's a good guy. He's a good guy. Don't piss him off, leave him alone, and you're fine. And if the shit hits the fan, I kind of want that guy on my team. So, you know, they get that. They're human too, you know, and especially if you live in a tiny little village, if you live in the middle of nowhere, everybody knows everybody. You know, after a week that you move in, everybody knows what you do, how you are, how you behave, who you talk shit with, you know. And if you're the kind of guy that runs around on your wife, the whole village will know it within minutes of you having your first bang of some random that's not your wife, you know. So it's a little village. Everybody knows everything about everybody. And, there's good and bad of that, but that's just how it is, So, P1 says, I did an illegal work in Italy farm. If you're willing to work for pennies, no one will ask you to get jabbed. Yeah, still you need to legalize to stay. Yes, and again, maybe not, because imagine they're going to start forcing people to like jab by what are they going to do? You're going to send a bunch of cops or army people around to everybody's house and force them to get injected? You're going to do that in Italy, you're going to start losing people quickly, very quickly. And some of it will be public and some of it will just be every guy that's got a uniform is now a target. You got to keep in mind that despite the average Italian being a pretty spineless guy who worries about his suit and whether it matches his socks more than everything else, that was the descent into tragedy that my country had over the last 50 years or something. But there's still enough people here that have a pair of balls. I mean, not too long ago, a fake Novus Ordo priest that had abused two girls, sisters, he had got 15 years in jail, I think, 10 or 15 years in jail for, raping these girls. And one of the two sisters committed suicide because she couldn't live with it. He did his 10 or 15 years in jail and then he got out. 2 days later, he was dead. Somebody shot him in the face. And they investigating the father for it, whether he hired somebody to do it, and then just, What happened to the investigation? I don't know. It's not in the news anymore. So you're going to start trying to jab people's kids by force? It doesn't have to be a majority. How many... And Italy has got a very high percentage of armed soldiers and police and whatever. We've got a large military, a large police force, and they're all armed. They're not like the English cops, but they got families too. And 50% of the armed forces, according to sources that I know inside the armed forces, know very well that they got given saline on purpose. So they don't have the whole thing on their side, AJ says, I'm not an idiot, but I'm uneducated and average intelligence in this group make me low intelligence. Although I'm good at working non-stop, I would make a good serf, I think. And there's nothing wrong with that, AJ. A good serf is a good serf. And, I do believe that if I manage to succeed in what I'm doing, there's always a need of more. You need more serfs. You don't need 1,000 warlords in a 10 square kilometer area. You need one warlord, but you need 1,000 serfs, Without the serfs, no one eats. You need the serfs. And if you're a good warlord, you protect your serfs. And if you're a good soldier, you protect the serfs and you obey your warlord. That's the feudal system worked for centuries for a reason. It worked. Woolly Ram says, I would trade a standard deviation of IQ for persistence. You're a smart man. Because I think I wrote it in my Systema book that courage is one of the... I forget the exact phrasing I use, but I'll take courage above intelligence. Because if you're smart, if you're courageous enough, you will either die because you don't know how to stop, or you will eventually find a way through, where a really smart guy who doesn't have courage never will. Just the idea will stop him, never mind, actual physical pain or difficulty or stuff like that. So, TVCL says, AJ, I've got a competent man who isn't an arrogant midwit. You're a godsend. Oh, no, I guess he was trying to say, if you're a competent man who isn't an arrogant midwit, you're a godsend. Yes, there's an absolute dearth of competent men that aren't arrogant midwits. There's a shortage of them. So, Woolly Ram, the most likely way of enforcing the jab is by trying to restrict access to medicine, banking, and other official services. Of course, which is why community is so important. And Caleb says the same. I know Caleb a little bit better than AJ, and I would say that Caleb, you're undervaluing yourself really, and probably so is AJ. A guy who is willing to just, and I know for a fact that Caleb is a worker. He's a grifter. no, he's a grafter. Sorry, I had a conversation with Vox not too long ago where I said, you know, the guy grafts, and like he's what? He's a grifter? I'm like, no, he's a grafter. You know, that's why I got confused now. As graft means is a guy who works. A grifter is a guy who cons people. You know, and Caleb is a hard worker. I know that for a fact. I don't know AJ as well, but I believe him. You know, he's always been very consistent in all the few things that I've dealt with him on. So, we got 2 downvotes. Ooh. So, a guy who works reliably is a godsend. You can't do anything without those people. And you know, I work consistently, but I'm not a team player. I've never been a good team player, just not a good team player. So either you leave me alone to do my own shit, or I got to unwillingly and not particularly happily lead something. And the kind of guy I am, you know, let's say I do become a warlord. It's like, honestly, if I do become a warlord of an area, then leave me the fuck alone. If you're another warlord, don't fucking try and take 1 inch of my territory. Because the minute you do that, you're trying to infringe on an unwritten law. And the minute you do that, I'm going to have to burn down your entire fucking dominion. Just to teach everybody else to leave me the fuck alone. And there are people that, you know, are just aggressive and just want to take everything over, and they'll keep going until somebody stops them. I'm not one of those guys. But I'll do what I need to do in order to secure the position for my family, my friends, my community, my loved ones, and whatever. So, you know, in a theoretical shit it's the fan scenario, that's kind of where you gotta go. P1 says, I don't want to do compromises, but if there won't be any other option, I will get Russian or Chinese saline in Hungary. How do you know it's saline? You know, that's the thing. Michael Pecker says, Woolly Ram, they are already doing that. For example, during elections last month, you weren't allowed to go into the voting building without masks. Why would they not do the same for jabs? Amazing. That is amazing. TVCL says, 2 downvotes. I wonder if one wears the false robes and the other wears very small hats. Birds of a feather, downvote together. Well, actually, I think I'll tell you guys. I think the downvoter is the old... he was a bear. I don't remember his name. Nate, the guy who got... what is it? He got thrown out of the whole bear club because he wrote a little book for kids that... I don't know, he didn't ask Owen's permission or whatever. I think that's who he is. And the reason it's that guy is because he was on Social Galactic very briefly. And he talked some shit. And I told him, you know, I replied in kind. And then he was like, oh, you're doing this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, fuck off, you're a liar, sort of thing. And he was asked by the mods to, like, sort of retract some complete nonsense that everybody that knows me, even peripherally, knows it's nonsense, and he refused to do it. So they kicked him out, and he had ample opportunity to stop. So that's why. Oh, E Scorpio says Nathaniel Slattery. There you go. If I had to bet money on it, I believe that's the guy it is. And he's the kind of guy who's got enough autism to just keep clicking the downvote. I don't know, he's got like 20 subscribers to his channel, but back then when this all happened, I think he did several little videos on his hatred for the Kurgan. I don't know, I genuinely can't remember. Like, people sent me links, and I think I watched about 10 minutes of one of them, and it was just laughable. But you know, the guy's so fucking boring and bent over and whatever. Apparently he was going to have a kid with the girl he married, which I feel a bit sorry for her, really, quite frankly. But, you know, whatever. I hope his kid is healthy and he has a useful life. What can I say? -3. Oh, must be. Good old Nate's friend or something. I must have touched a nerve. And I got 3 downvotes. That's funny. But yeah. And the other 2 are probably the 2 freaks that, oh, we're gonna buy a 4. It's getting up there. They've brought all their friends. That's funny. So yeah. Greeny Houdini says the voting system and politics are such shit to keep us divided and busy. Indeed, of course they are. Pew and Bear says at HVAC Millennial, fuck off with your or else bullshit. Oh wait, where is HVAC Millennial? Oh, I missed it. Hey brother Hop, all is well, Kurgan, but you need to respect the issue. No, you're now banned. Let's say you've got a zombie apocalypse and suddenly you've got a wave of 2,000 zombies charging your little farmstead. You're not going to survive that unless you've been planning how to survive a wave of 2,000 zombies for the last 2 years. And if you've been able to implement all the things that you need to put in place to survive a wave of 2,000 zombies, it takes you 2 years to set that up. And if I can't be focusing on that because I have to plant potatoes, then you see the problem. But if I've got 10 loyal, 20 loyal, 100 loyal henchmen, let's talk about a real 2,000 zombie thing, right? 2,000 zombies attacking a farmstead that can support, enough food to feed, let's say only 20 people. Let's just say 20 people, 20 adults, okay? And let's say 20 adult, let's say 15 adult men with 10 adult women, so 25 adults and whatever number of kids, all right? There's 5 single guys and there's, 10 couples. And you've got to survive a zombie wave of 2,000 actual zombies, the brain-eating kind, but you've got 2 years to plan for it. Would I be worried? No. As long as those other 15 men are willing to do exactly what the fuck I tell them at the speed that I tell them. Why? Well, let's think about the Knights of Malta. They built 2 fucking castles, 2 keeps, 2 defensible castles in 6 months because they knew that the Muslims were going to come. You're telling me that 15 men cannot build a fucking perimeter and organize themselves so that they can take care of 2,000 zombies? If they've got 2 years, of course they can. Of course they can. But you need the manpower, So TVCL says respecting Protestants is an oxymoron. Indeed. You can't respect people that can't think past their nose. Greeny Houdini says giving an elitist the presidential position would be a demotion. What do you mean, an elitist? I'm not sure. Woolly Ram says bloody sad. It's after midnight here and people are wearing masks. it's retarded. Tony Guterres, so I'm a Protestant here and I'm very offended if you guys will not respect us, not right at all. Then fuck off, Tony. It's not the place for you. I'm not banning you yet because you might be just being sarcastic. TVCL says, we've poked the nest. There's now 6 downvotes. Henry Martin says, Prot Cloaky and Small Hat Raid. All their friends equals 4. See, Henry has always had a sense of humor I thoroughly enjoyed. Yeah. Scorpio says, is Greeny Houdini a Catholic or at least fellow novice Okra? Oh, wait, I forgot what Okra is. Look, Scorpio, you keep dodging your intervention to become a proper Catholic. You've had a long time. You said you'd send me an email. I thought you were a man of your word, despite being the chief of the Gammas. I think you need to, buck up. Freeman on the Sand says, Protestants go for minimalism even more than Muslims. I find it unnerving. Depends what you mean by minimalism. They talk a lot of bullshit, like not minimally. I mean, like big waves. They don't even burn frankincense during their prayer meetings or whatever their equivalent of mass is. No, they just drink grape juice like Jesus did, because they don't want to be alcoholics, except they all have a bottle of vodka hidden somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, there was a little spike, but it restarted. Is not being a target for zombies a viable strategy? Absolutely, especially when you're not in a defensible position. You know, again, if you're surrounded by zombies, cover yourself in dead man guts or whatever. You know, pretend to be a zombie yourself until you're free and clear. You know, you got to do what you got to do. Survival of the fittest in the zombie apocalypse. You know. Greenie says, I don't believe we have to adhere in any religion to believe in a creator or higher source at Scorpio. Yeah, Greenie, I thought that for more than 40 years of my life, but there are certain things that you miss out on when you are a sort of generic Zen agnostic, as I was. And that is the degeneracy will follow you. And the people that think like you are all degenerate because they're all human. And I know because I was one of them for a very long time, and I was very degenerate. And like Caleb says, the Freemasons and the Satanists would agree. There are many things that you can worship, but there's only one thing that you can worship that is good and positive and helpful and loves us. There's only one of them. There's a bunch of other things that want to eat you, and not in the nice way that you might enjoy. Puan says, Scorpio, you're quite a deviant with obsessing about Owen Benjamin, but Novice Okra made me laugh. I'm not sure what novice is. That orc or is that, I don't know. I don't know what okra is. Greenie Houdini says, Caleb, I've met God and it has no race, sex, nor religion. Oh, Greenie. One day, you know, when you move to Italy and find yourself a nice Italian man to get a passport with, we should have those pina coladas and margaritas and discuss this, because I kind of know where you're coming from, but you have to understand that human beings need to have rules, or they will literally eat each other in the street like zombies. They, yeah. Caleb says, cute story. Yeah, Caleb's right. And look, I get it. I'm not judging you because I know where you're coming from. I lived there for a very long time, but you're wrong. You know, I was dead wrong, and the thing that woke me up proved to me that I was dead wrong in a very clear way. So, Michael Pekar, lead the zombie horde to quell your enemies. That is the way of survival. You might not always have the option to do that. You might not have the ability to do that. Slanty says, have you considered taking over a Chinese sweatshop for serfs? No, because I want a homogeneous society that works well and that won't fucking eat me in the night when I fall asleep. Greenie Houdini, even scientists who are mostly atheist, agnostic, etc. are leaning towards a higher maker of the universe, so their spiritual beliefs are changing. Yay. No, they're not changing. Every actual scientist that ever lived who is worthy of the name scientist is and always was a believer, and most of them were Catholics. The people who invented the scientific method were Catholic monks, so by and large, over 90% of them. So, you know, the secular cretins who say, oh, I'm an atheist agnostic, there isn't many of them. You know, it's like that curve that shows the retard, normal people, the midwit, smart people, and super genius. And on the retard and super genius scale, you've both got, you know, God is real and is love and is just, and that's it, they're the same. The super genius and the retard, they both know the truth. It's all the midwits in the middle that screw everything up. Woolly Ram, do you think you will have time for a Friday stream? I think that talking about cult structure induction is needed. Possibly. I don't know, mate. My life at the moment is very roller coaster. There's a lot of things I need to take care of that are important. But yeah, ping me closer to the time, and if we can, why not? TVCL says, Green, it all leads back to the Catholic God. It's just a case of taking the long way around. Yes, it is. TVCL has put it correctly. And Green Houdini says, I was a sunbeam for the Salvation Army for 15 years, so I know Christianity. No, you don't. You don't. Greenie, you must understand that you've been lied to your entire life about Christianity. Absolutely, your entire life. And she says to Caleb, don't go judging. It's not judging, it's making an observation of fact. You're mistaken. Scorpio, okra is a vegetable that is good fried or in a stew. Oh, right. Yes, I do know what okra is. I was just thinking it was an acronym for something. Very good. TVCL, unless you know proper Catholicism, you don't know Christianity. You know a distorted suburb of Satanism. Yes, exactly right. Again, TVCL got it right. Backstabber says to Greenie, hope you come round. And Woolly Ram says, begging Our Lady her pardon. And Greenie says, one day I was cursing God and demanded him to save me, and I was shaking the Bible and calling it bullshit, and I had a godly experience at that moment. Right. So, pay attention. I know you're a girl and it's hard for you because your brain doesn't work, like Dilo mentioned before. See, if you're a boy, like me, and you have one of those moments, you start to think a little bit deeper and you start to look for patterns of where does this come from? What is he actually trying to tell me? What did he tell me? And then you start to look. Now, just because you had a very bad experience with fake Christians doesn't mean Christianity is not true. It just means fake Christians are not Christians, that's all. Henry says that scientist is not equal to natural scientist. Yeah, natural scientists are where it's at. And Caleb says, I don't mean to judge, Greenie. See, I didn't even read that before I told you. He's just making an observation. I was an atheist for more than a decade, but the math leads to the Catholic God. It does, absolutely. And I respect people like Caleb and TVCL who get there by raw logic. I didn't. I'm a hard-headed fucker, so like Greenie, I needed to fall off the horse, you know. And Greenie, probably being a girl, she was riding only on one side and didn't fall off hard enough, so maybe she needs another. What she needs is a good Italian man to marry her and show her the way. Greenie is also after I said, stop this book on something I needed, and stopped on the book of Ezekiel, and it said, and your the mist was the color of amber, and out of the fire, etc. My name is Amber right there. But I won't tell you about my godly experience before the verse, because most don't believe me. Come on, we believe you. My grandma was a devout Catholic. There you go. Maybe your grandma then had probably depending how old she was, she might have actually been a decent Catholic. What did she tell you about the Novus Ordo? I mean, did she die before 1963? Because if she was a devout Catholic after 1963, then she wasn't really a Catholic. And TVCL says, okay, Greenie, but at this point, is your conviction based on thought or feeling? By the way, Greenie, I do respect the fact you're telling us your almost conversion story. That those things are important. They're important for the other people in here too to know about. So, you know, go for it. I'm not going to make fun of it. I mean, you might just be making it all up, but I really don't think so. So, Freeman says, science is a method for better understanding God. It is entirely sacred when you understand how everything is His creation. It is, and if you're doing it in that way. AJ says, I enjoy listening to this conversation. Yes, it's important for people, you know, to what do you call it? Witness or, you know, tell their story. It really is. We're all human beings. That's how we used to learn stuff, through stories, you know, through listening to people that we cared about or that knew stuff or that were older than us. And Henry says there's a lack of natural scientists in the world. Yes, there is. I think they all died out in the 1800s. So, go on, Greenie. You should have replenished your pina colada by now. Carry on. Tell us the rest. I'm curious now. AJ says, I was hoping to ask, how do I explain God is love? What do we Catholics mean when we say this? I've had many Protestants recently attack me for saying that God is love. Well, there you go. They are the product of Satan. So they do not understand. I don't know how to explain that. That is what I experienced. I experienced a personal God that absolutely knows me personally. And when I say me, I mean every single one of us, you know, you too. And loves me. It was the most shocking unbelievable, unexpected experience I've ever had. God is love. Everything proceeds from Him, and it is all love. It is done with love. There's no other way to explain it. But, according to the Protestant, all you got to do is believe that Jesus is King to be a Christian. Of course, demons believe Jesus is King, so I guess demons are Protestants by that measure, They get really upset when you remind them of that. They also get really upset when you tell them that the only Protestant rule is interpret as thou wilt, which is a clearly satanic commandment. It is, Aleister Crowley. The do as thou wilt is the only law, is all of the law. And that is exactly what the Protestants do. Interpret as thou wilt. That's it. That's what they do. They all interpret their own way. I've got the right to interpret. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're too fucking stupid. You should shut up, believe the infallible magisterium of the Catholic Church. Wooly Rams's question. I know a guy through the internet, a highish IQ, wild ass of a man, who is at the point of accepting the eternal psychopath theory. Is there a way of pushing him to examine Catholicism? Well, that is one of the things I did. I immediately began to see the eternal psychopath everywhere. And that is a proof that if the eternal psychopath exists, then the counterpart also must exist. And who tells that story better than anybody? Who's been telling us that from day one? The Catholic Church. You got to keep in mind that the first 1,000 years of Christianity, there was only Catholicism. The Orthodox, fake Orthodox keep saying, no, we were the real church. No, you fucking weren't. And even 400 years after you split off, all your guys admitted that the Pope is indeed the leader of the church. So it's bullshit. You're schismatics who had popes for 1,000 years, and you all followed them. You all knew that the Pope was, first among equals. He had supremacy. Papal supremacy was a thing. It always was. And then they just fucked off because I don't want to do what Daddy tells me, kind of thing. It's just the same thing, And then 400 years later, they had the Council of Florence or whatever it was, when they all sort of pretty much admitted, I kind of agree the Pope is the dude. But then they went back home and it's like, we're going to beat your ass. And as you know, the Orthodox are cowards. They've always been cowards. They've always been backstabbers. They've always made backdoor deals with the Muslims that they asked to be protected from by the Catholics. And then they betrayed the Catholics. So the Orthodox are cowardly backstabbers. That's what they are. That's their nature. Now, I'm not talking about every individual. I'm sure there's some nice guys out there, whatever. But that's the nature of the religion. They're backstabbing cowards and liars. So why would you join them? So just tell him to look at the history of the church. Tell him to read the Patristic Fathers. Tell him to read a book called The Four Witnesses. Read up on the Catholic saints. Read up on, read that book, The Crusades of Iron Men and Saints by Harold Lamb. TVCL AJ, look up the definition of agape, Greek term for love. Yeah, the Greeks had, that is the term for love. There are different kinds of love, Of course, English being a primitive language only has one word for it. But, even in Italian, we have more than one word for it. In Greek, they had, I think, it's 4 words, so. Greenie says, this happened at a point in my life when I was really depressed and hopeless, and when I was cursing God and feeling helpless, like at my wit's end. I was playing Xbox and walked to my kitchen with my headset on and controller in my hand, and I started cursing God. Well, all of a sudden, I wasn't in the flesh. I was in spirit and floating above earth in the cosmos, and all those light atoms magnified and lit my soul with love and warmth. I don't know how much time passed, but when I came back, I was still standing in my kitchen, and after I asked to send me to a passage, and he sent me to Ezekiel, it was a confirmation. I was changed ever since that day, but it was everything, all directions, all atoms, all lights, frequencies that makes the universe work. Yes. Yes. I believe you. You see, I'm a really hard-headed fucker because I had a somewhat similar experience when I had surgery. And that convinced me that there was an intelligence behind creation, but because I'm a hard-headed fucker, and was pretty materialistic, not in the sense of being greedy for money, that stuff, but I was a very practical person, always have been, so didn't concern myself too much with the details. And then I had the second experience that wasn't based on having any drugs from the surgery or anything, so you couldn't put it down to any of that. And that was a much more detailed experience that forced me to, like, okay, now I gotta figure out what exactly does God, which one is the way, which one is the path. I know now that he's there, and which one is the closest one we've got on earth. And it is absolutely Catholicism without a shadow of a doubt. But you have to know what Catholicism is, and that's been hidden, buried, and completely converted and changed to the opposite of it since 1958 at a minimum. It's been converted and changed and infiltrated for the last 300 years. But certainly over the last 70 years, it's just been really full throttle inverted. So you don't know what Catholicism is. TVCL says, love equals the intention of wanting what is best for someone, not necessarily niceness, gentleness, etc. So the source of all being is an intention and will for what is best. Freeman says, some Protestants are demons as they promote and found, I guess, Christian Zionism. Yeah, a lot of Protestants are just dumb, ignorant, dumb people. And if you want a surfeit of ignorant, dumb people, there's a big country, to the west of me. Starts with an A, was discovered by an Italian, And agape is the word for love used by Jesus and the apostles in the Bible, indeed. A TVCL says, God must be loved because in his infinite wisdom and power, and cannot but will and intend which is best for everything. And what is in fact best is himself, indeed. Caleb says, Protestantism is the belief that Christianity was wrong for 1,500 years until a drunk German got it right. Yes, I think you're almost quoting me from my little book, Believe, there. Woolly Ram says, it's a more pragmatic and tactical question. Is there a way of short-circuiting the Novus Ordo and American megachurch Protestant fog which obscures and distracts from the real church? Yeah. Tell him to read The Crusades of Iron Men and Saints by Harold Lamb. If he's not a reader, chances are that the best Catholic he would be is an illiterate peasant type of Catholic. And you can't reach those people with books because they don't know how to read. So the only way is to immerse them in a culture and a country and a community that is Catholic. They will become Catholic by default because they're essentially sheep and they just follow. If he's one of those guys, then, short of transplanting him to a Catholic community, I don't know that there is an easy way. RAB says, I remember Big Bear questioning God is love. I gave Owen a second chance this year, but I couldn't stand all his dumb criticism and heresies against the Catholic Church, so I stopped listening. Yeah, I don't know. Like I've said it before, I think Owen lost his fucking mind. I didn't know who the fuck he was from Bar Soap, but when I first heard of him a few years ago, I thought he sounded alright. He was okay. He sort of made some sense. And then he just revealed himself to be a complete heretic and a total liar. He just makes random shit up day to day. So, and plus, I think he's cowardly. When I saw that, I think the last thing I saw of him was that intervention that Milo the Freemason did with E. Michael Jones, the grifter fake Catholic did, some other grifter fake Catholic called Coffee, I think, and the only one I have any respect for in that whole intervention was Professor Rachel Fulton Brown, who doesn't hold a public position on sedevacantism or not sedevacantism. So I respect her wish to keep that as is. and she's definitely knows what she's talking about. But the intervention that they did on Owen Benjamin concerning the Trinity, he just fucking melted into a puddle of shit. All the crap he said, and as soon as E. Michael Jones goes, "What did you do?" And you know, E. Michael Jones is no fucking intellectual. I mean, that guy, he couldn't argue his way out of a paper bag. If you ever had the balls to come and have a so-called debate with me, you'd be trained meets frog. But, you know, Owen just folded like, "Oh, no, I was just saying that because there was a Catholic giving me some crap, calling me a heretic." The only Catholic that said that was me. And you can look at it in one of the videos where I judged the heretic Owen Benjamin. I've got a Pope hat and everything. That's very official. It's one of the better watched videos. So, Prots will start to insult Mary just to avoid Catholicism, TVCL says. Indeed, they do. And, you know, again, think about that. Think about that. If you're a Protestant and you profess that you agree that Jesus is God, yet you insult the woman that gave birth to him on earth, and you wonder why Protestants have got a whole bunch of sexual issues and problems, and that's why they come out with all the freaks. Catholics respect the female aspect of humanity. They respect women in the way that they need to be respected. They understand that, like Dilo accepts, you know, their brain don't work really too well, but that's not what they're supposed to. That's why they have men, you know, so their brain work better, and women do a whole bunch of other things that men can't do and that they need. You know, men need women and women need men. It's, you know, we've all got our part to play, but just like I was saying before, if you're a warlord and you're trying to be a serf, it's not going to go well. If you're a serf and you're trying to be a warlord, it's not going to go well. If you're a warlord, you accept you're a warlord. There's a lot of shit that goes being a warlord. It's not fun. But if it's the most fun you're going to have if you accept who you are and you do it well. Same if you're a serf. It's not fun digging fucking ditches 10 hours a day. But somebody has to do it. And if you accept that that's what you're best at, that's the best life you can lead. Accept who you are. Be who you are. Green Houdini says, and also it felt euphoric in every atom. It was incredible, but better. I'm just saying because it felt amazing and I don't know what else to compare it to. It was grand. I know. I've had that experience. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's not new to me. I'm not dismissing it. I'm not just saying that. And Greenie, if you want to read a book that has an explanation of that event, let me just see if it's behind me here. Yes, it is. I'm going to show you the book. Find this and read page 99 of it. It's called Myth and Ritual in Christianity by Alan Watts. Alan Watts was an interesting guy. He was a professor of religion or whatever. He got into some pagan shit and whatever, but he was a real intellectual and he definitely knows what he was talking about. And you see I've got a bookmark here. There's a little bookmark. That's bookmarked at page 165 because that's where I got to, but I made notes on it. And it's page 98, 99. That's where you're going to have a description of what happened to you so that you see it's not a unique thing. It has happened to various mystics and saints and crazy bastards and even people that are just maybe not necessarily cool, really good guys like Paul. Paul had that experience and he wasn't a particularly nice man, you know. Puan says, Greenie, now you know that God loves you like no one ever will. To love back is to get to know him. Ezekiel points you at least to the Torah, but you came here not by accident. Indeed. C. Wilkinson says, morning, Internet. Well, I didn't know it was the whole Internet, but good morning to you too. Willie Ram says, not a sheep, he's a wild ass. I'll try outright directness. In that case, if he's a wild ass, tell him to spend $10 and read Believe. It's 98 pages. Even if he's an illiterate fucker, should be able to read 98 pages in pretty big print. It's not that hard to read it. And that book was written by a wild ass for wild asses. We're not talking about the gay type of ass. We're talking about the donkey type. And Pew and Bear says because Owen Benjamin is a heretic. Yeah, he is. I don't think he ever was a Catholic. He's Scorpio. I like Greenie regardless. She can start off with Novus Ordo, the official religion of Gammas. Yes. You see, I can't help but like East Scorpio a little bit. You know, he's the chief of the Gammas, but he's funny. Come on. He tries to get a rise out of. I think he's funny. He still has to come for his intervention, though, become a proper Catholic. Woolly Ram, it's interesting that Jesus called himself by the same title Ezekiel was called. I wonder what it signifies. Son of Man. It's one of those things I often wonder about as well. Cordell says, I made a nice meme of Pope Hat Kurgan. If anyone would like it, I can post it in the Telegram chat. Yeah, do it, man. Go for it. Post it under the latest thing I posted under. I can't remember what it is. Chad says, Owen has a mistrust of tradition of any kind. He wants to figure it all out on his own. That's the definition of a heretic. And I don't think he's got a mistrust as much as he's got an ego the size of a zeppelin. And just like the one that caught fire, it's not going to go well for him. Big egos tend to burn down in flames, sooner or later. C. Wilkinson, is Michael Hoffman's work on corruption starting in the Renaissance any good? I don't know, because I haven't read it. Woolly Ram, you wouldn't insult another man's mother, but Protestants insult God's mother. There you go. DVCL says, not sure I agree yet, Chad. He's been building his image around a lot of traditional family and political values. He just picks and chooses. Yeah, I agree with DVCL there. Greenie says, love Alan Watts. He died a sad life for being unknowledgeable as he was. I don't know how he died. If you can tell me that. Yes, of course you can join my Telegram chat. The chief of the Gammas is there. I only ban people for doing stupid shit in it. What is my Telegram chat link? I'll post it up here. If I can find a way to do it without killing the stream. Let's see. Where are we? Info. Okay, what's the info on my chat? See if I can find that. Oh, come on. No. Oh, maybe I can't do it on this. Oh, that was my phone. Ah, you see the things you make me do? Ah, there it is. No, just copy that. Oh, piss off. Copy. There you go. Paste. There you go. I'm not going to have a surfeit of Gammas, but there's the Telegram chat. That's it. So you can now... where are we? There we go. AJ says, Patrick Coffin is about as gay and limp Catholic you can have. He makes Milo look masculine and EMJ look smart. Yeah, he did look like the gimp of the group. Can I join your Telegram chat in the end? Yeah, go for it. You're in there. TVCL, didn't he die as an alcoholic contemplating something to do with Zen? Well, you know, if I hadn't become a Catholic, there's probably a non-zero chance that I would have died in a hail of bullets. Possibly. Not drunk, because I've only been drunk once, and that was on purpose just to experience it. You can ask my wife about that one. There's videos, and it's one of those videos you can't put in public. It's just, but it's funny. Anyway, Woolly Ram, every time Milo gets referenced, I'm amazed at how your exposition of him removed him from my attention. It's like he stopped being significant to my brain. Well, yeah, that's the idea, and the people that eventually will catch up, that's what's happening. Even in his chat, it's become just a degenerate group of degenerates talking degenerate shit all the time. And that's all he is. And that level of shock jock degeneracy is completely dying out. I mean, it was already old when in the 90s, and we're talking about that. What's that fucking radio guy with the big hair who's just a complete idiot? I don't know. It's an American guy who used to do a famous radio show and he made millions and whatever. TVCL says Vox book did that to JBP for me. I haven't read Vox's book on Jordan Peterson, but when Vox simply pointed out that the guy was like a complete fucking freak, and he put on his blog the letter that Jordan Peterson wrote to his own father. He put a copy of that up on his blog, and I read it. And the first time I saw Jordan Peterson was when he did that interview with that English woman feminist, and I thought, cool, he's on our side, he's a cool guy. So then I went to look at 3 YouTube videos of his, and I literally watched a grand total of maybe 20 minutes of him, like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there. And I saw the pattern was he would say something that seemed to make sense, and then like 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes later, he would say something that completely invalidated his own point and was just coming completely from the opposite direction. Like, you know, it's like listening to music and then all of a sudden, nails on a chalkboard. I was like, nah, this guy's fucking crazy or something. But then when I read the letter that he wrote to his own father, it completely explained exactly who Jordan Peterson is. And he's a complete megalomaniac. He's an absolute occultist freak who thinks that by brainwashing the whole planet into believing his bullshit, he can get them to think what he wants, and by them thinking what he wants, he can change reality. That's what he actually believes. So he thinks he's some kind of wizard that can change the world that way. That is what he believes. That's what he thinks, and you've got to sort of understand where he's coming from to get that out of that letter. But I remember when I was at Vox's place and we talked about Peterson, I was like, dude, I don't understand the level of patience you have. You know, you've got to keep in mind that, you know, Vox is, of course, he's not a white person. He's a redskin, right? He's an Indian. And those guys, you know, they had inventive ways to torture the people that scalped their women and killed their kids. Rightly so. And I think Vox is one of those guys because he actually went to read the books of Jordan Peterson. I don't think there's enough money on the planet that you could pay me to read like some of the books that Vox reads for fun. And I think he read the Jordan Peterson one not for fun, but as a duty that he needs to do in order to do a proper job to skin him alive. Oh my God! I mean, I was like, dude, I can't get it. And he was like, no, but he's a smart guy. I was like, he's not smart. He's fucking insane. And he's like, yeah, but you gotta admit, he's pretty smart to like get that many people to believe his bullshit. And I was like, you and I have got some very different definitions of the word smart, but I get what you're saying. But I didn't get why he would spend that much time on it. And his wife was like, no, I get it, you know, because Vox was sort of like trying to explain it to me, saying, no, but, you know, you have to do that in order to go to... And I was like, no, I don't have to do that, dude. I'm just slowly walking back from you. and his wife said, no, what G means is that once you know he's crazy, why go delve that much deeper? But you see, Vox is an altruist, and he wanted to write that out for, for the people that didn't get it, and to expose him, you know. Same thing I did with Milo, you know, and I thought Milo was a pretty decent guy. I thought Owen Benjamin was a pretty decent guy. But, you know, when you find out the truth about these people, you have to expose them. You have to say what the fuck they are. Owen Benjamin is not relevant to Catholicism, so I don't really give a shit. He's just one of the random freaks that exist. But, you know. So, let's see, where are we? I'm not sure, TV. Oh. I don't know how Alan Watts died, but if somebody knows, let me know. Caleb says, my wife is making me homemade apple pie. Cheers to your wife. AJ says, Owen is weird, but I think he means well. I do find it annoying that he refuses to engage with real Catholics to discuss Catholicism, and his KJ Bible is all he follows, trusts. Well, makes sense to me. I mean, last I heard, Owen Benjamin spends hours talking about gay stuff. really graphically. And the King James Bible was, of course, created by the will of King James, who was a notorious homosexual and who was the guy who really got Freemasonry up and running and made the Freemasons into the Satanists they are today. The KJ Bible is also got 33,000 errors of translation in it, which I don't think are coincidental, because they're there to reduce the worthiness of Mary and as well as Jesus, and they even pervert the commandments. So yeah, AJ, listen carefully now, because I know that you're a good guy and I know that you mean well, but Owen Benjamin doesn't mean well, right? Stop being brainwashed. Anyone who reads the KJ Bible only is an absolute ignorant about anything to do with Christianity and a moron. And, guy who only talks about homo stuff reads Homo Bible. Well, no surprises there. Woolly Ram says, means well, in inverted commas. Yeah, you know what the road to hell is paved with, right? Oh, you see, and Caleb says it just after AJ, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I followed OB for about 2 years. Very disappointing, the road he took. Yeah. Woolly Ram says in inverted commas, men of goodwill and, inverted commas, goodwill are spells, Masonic inversions of the Gospels. Indeed, men of goodwill, that's what the Freemasons call themselves. And by that they mean of good will, as in they have the will to do whatever they want. Peterson claims he used to work at a pizza place, said he learned there's a limit to how much pizza one can eat. He also promoted the McMartin preschool lies about the kids making stuff up. Jordan Peterson is an occultist freak who believes he can rule the world by brainwashing everybody with his fucking lies. He is literally insane. Vox is not joking when he says that the man is absolutely insane. And he predicted the complete downfall and the mental breakdown of Jordan Peterson. He predicted that because Vox noticed the pattern, understood where it came from, saw where it was going, saw what the origin was it of, and it can only have one conclusion, and it's a bad, bad crash. Scorpio says Vox is a fellow Bronze Race Mexicano. Yes, la razza cosmica. You see, Scorpio, you should just make peace, and for the betterment of the razza cosmica, just be good buddies with Vox. Backstabber, yeah, Vox Day breakdown of it reminded me of MHFM video on witchcraft. I really didn't think I'd see evil like that from a guy like him. I don't know what MHFM is, but okay, maybe if you can enlighten us. AJ, Caleb, Ken, and Woolly Ram. That's all true. I can't help liking him a little, although I agree Owen is lost and his theology has more in common with modernistic Masonic thought than anything Christian. I think Owen at this point is just some fucking lost grifter, really. TVCL, I actually read Maps of Meaning twice and was mesmerized by his work. It just... what? You know, TVCL comes up with this stuff now and then that makes me want to smack him in the head. It just took Vox to say, that's fucking crazy, and I suddenly clicked and I was like, yeah, that's fucking crazy. Jesus. You see my problem? We need good henchmen, need good serfs. Okay. I think it stopped recording. I don't know if it's still live or not. I hope it is. Let me know. Greeny says, I actually believe the Bible has tricked people into worshipping Satan. No. King James was a terrible man. No, Greeny, the Bible hasn't done that. But here, take a piece of advice. Leave the Old Testament to one side. Just read the New Testament. All right? It's ma'am, Greeny. Referring to King James. Caleb got it and is laughing. Woolly Ram. The utter chutzpah of the Masons, taking the angelic declaration of peace at our Lord's birth. I don't have strong and vile enough language for them. Indeed. Backstabbed by most Holy Family Monastery Demon Brothers. Yes. I haven't found the error with the Demon Brothers except for, and I don't know that it is an error, they don't believe in baptism of desire, which is incorrect. I did write to them, and I believe I'm one of the few people that have never replied to. So I think I'm correct in what I said to them. Baptism of desire is a thing. They attack it from a number of different places, but it's always been a thing. It always will be a thing. But there are very specific conditions for baptisms of desire to apply. So thank you, Mum Thrax, telling me that I'm still alive. So I hope that's clear. But I really enjoyed this stream. I think it's over 2 hours now. Well, it's nearly 2 hours now, and there was, I don't know how long before it cut out and then rejoined. I don't know if it's still the same or if it's a different one running now. Who knows? I never know what's going on when the internet thing goes down. But let's have a look if I can actually check that out, what's going on. Let's see. Oh, I can't see that now, can I? There, let me go there. I don't know. Seems to still be one video, possibly. That's good, if that's the case. The demons are Phenites, heretics. Enlighten me there, Caleb. I don't know if they are or not, but what they write about in terms of all the stuff I've read, and I haven't read their whole site, but I've read a lot of it. Not a lot of it, I would say that they've got more stuff on there that you can read in a few years, but I've read a bunch of stuff on their site, and all the stuff I've read, I haven't come across anything wrong. So Michael Pecker says it's the same video. Excellent, thank you, sir. Woolly Ram says the Demon Brothers err on the cold side and are overly literal, which comes hand in hand. Right. AJ, fair enough. I'll need to better utilize my time by engaging with the Kurganate instead. Yes, I think genuinely, you know, I think for your own mental health, I mean, you know, whatever. Ultimately, you know, what we're trying to do here is create something that helps, yes, the people near me immediately, because that's what I can do, right? But you can repeat what I'm doing. You can do the same thing. You can do better, maybe. I don't know, where you are, you know. So, and I do strongly suggest sedevacantism is the way to go because, well, it just works. Caleb says, Father Feeney of the 1930s, Defeat Modernism, has a video on it. I've heard of the guy. I believe he was he the guy that was photographed or, you know, had something to do with Bella Dodd. But, you know, I don't know. I need to possibly look up into it. And I'm not great into watching videos. If you can give us the cliff notes of it. Why is Father Frenia a heretic? And why would somebody that thought he was a proper priest be a heretic? Yeah, I don't know what a Phenite is. TVCL says he was mesmerized by J. Jordan Peterson because despite red flags, I was persuaded by the overall body of his work. But Fox's work was like snapping out of a spell. See, TVCL, I don't get that. I absolutely don't get how you could be mesmerized by the overall body of his work. The overall body of his work is a completely incoherent dog turd that's been vomited on by crows. It's nothing. There is no overall body of work. It's a bunch of schizophrenic shit all jumbled together. There is literally not an overall body of work other than his letter to his father. That encapsulates Jordan Peterson as much as you can encapsulate a schizophrenic megalomaniac. That's what he is. And a pathological liar. That's the body of his work. You know, he's insane. That's I don't know how anybody can get mesmerized by that. I don't know, it's frightening to me. But yeah. Well, I really hope a bunch of you guys make it over here, because we got a place up towards the top of the hill where we make fires, you know, to burn out stuff or whatever. But we've got enough wood around here. I'm going to make some seats around there, and it's going to be the campfire that you can just sit around, talk shit, drink beers when, you know, especially when it's summer. Holy Ram says, perhaps TVCL, like me, was in a searching and suggestive frame of mind. I'm sure it was, but the thing that shocks me is that TVCL is... well, no, I'm wrong there. I was going to say he's a guy who's a logician, but he's not. He studied philosophy, and he told me that they didn't even talk about logic in his philosophy class, which shocked the shit out of me, but it shouldn't have, of course. How the hell can you do philosophy if you can't do logic? It's weird. Oh, I think the little man just woke up. Let's see if his mum gets hold of him or not. Otherwise, I might just excuse myself for a minute while I take care of the little Viking before he wrecks something. But talk amongst yourself and ask questions. What's that? Oh man, my little dude just cracks me up. That's hilarious. It's just... so he woke up because he's filled up his nappy, and he's pretty good about that. You know, it's at the time where I really need to teach him to start going to the toilet, because he's that kind of... But so he woke up, and like his mother just picked him up because the other little one has gone down already. And he's like, Dad, you change. I'm like, okay. Then he gets to the bedroom. His mom's busy like changing him, and he goes, iPad is downstairs, Dad. I'm like, you're not getting the iPad now, dude. You're going to bed. He's like, milk. He wants his milk. It's like, got a milk bottle. Now, while this is going on, his mom starts to change him, and he just puts his hands behind his back like this while she's busy, you know, giving him a wet wipe, cleaning him up. And he's giving me a couple of kisses, good night, and he's laughing and that. And I'm like, that's it, my little prince. You just lie back with your hands behind your head. Let mommy clean you all up. It's the right attitude. It's what they really like down, deep down later on. You know, my wife gives me the look, and I'm just walking out, and he bursts out laughing. Here's mom saying, that's not funny. Don't laugh. It's just... he's gonna be all right. Caleb says, Fenites. Feni denied baptism of desire and blood, the call to the Vatican for the Inquisition, and never answered. Ah. There you go then. That's where that comes from. Thanks, Caleb. TVCL says, yeah, I had a lot of rhetorical stuff going on. As crazy as it sounds, and compared to the other philosophy I was being offered, his stuff actually made comparative sense. Good God. Oh. Michael says, I bought Peterson's book when I was still a naive boy some 5 years ago. For some reason, I couldn't get myself to finish that book. Now that I know better, I can understand why. There you go. TVCL, my current clarity of thought and understanding of logic is post-Peterson. Mr. Wolf's Angle 9? Regarding Michael Hoffman, I've only read Judaism's Strange Gods. He's got some interesting things to say, but it's too polemical and emotional on balance. All you need to know about the Jews is that they hate the Catholic Church, and they always have. They're the enemy. Talmudic Jews are not. Their religion is younger than Catholicism, of course. Converting to the Catholic frame of mind is a form of mental inoculation. Indeed. Michael Pecker's Peterson work feels schizophrenic to me and unordered. It is. When I rediscovered Catholicism, I found the philosophy to be more ordered than any other. Indeed it is. And it's logical, it's reasonable, it all fits, all the parts fit. Even if you read a part of it here and a part of it there, and say you read a piece of Aquinas, and then you read a piece of St. Augustine, and then you read a piece of, say, Pope Pius X, they all fit. They all work with each other in a coherent, logical, reasonable whole. Woolly Ram, the best that can be said of Judaism is that it is a dead religion practiced by those indoctrinated from childhood in it. Well, it's not really dead. They worship Satan. The Talmudic Jews worship the prince of this world. That is who they worship. I never liked Peterson. I was overjoyed when Vox's book came out because I had friends that saw him like some prophet. Indeed. Woolly Ram, the worst would get the stream closed and channel banned. Oh yes, I know. Indeed. That's probably going to happen at some point. I just need to learn how to do the automatic upload to BitChute, which I've got a thing to read somewhere, but I just don't have the time. And I was supposed to have my wizard friend come over for a week, but he got sick. So, he got some kind of, I don't know, brain damage, lose a limb, kind of plague or some shit, so couldn't make it. No, he was apparently really sick, so he couldn't come and help, but he will. He's a good guy, so. Anyway, I've been going for about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, I don't know. If you guys have some more questions, points, comments to make, let me know. And yeah, I don't know if the little dude is gonna go down right away or if he might just be. He's so hilarious, man. The other day, what did he do? I was changing my trousers, so I put my trousers on I took all the stuff out of my pocket. And he was like, he just started to organize it. So it was all randomly on the bed. And he was like, okay, mobile phone over there, keys over here, put the other keys there, car keys, yeah. So he made like little piles. So like phones there, the keys are here, bits of paper or receipts or whatever I had, there, a pile of paper. And then I had some coins, like for the car thing. So he puts all the coins in things and he goes, money. And he grabs money and he runs off. And I'm like, what are you doing? Are you stealing my money? Yeah! And he runs off. It's like the Viking gene is too strong. He leaves all the other stuff nice and neat, but he steals the money. It's like, and he's had that since he was a little kid. I remember once with one of the loyal henchmen, we were going in a hardware store. This was a few months back. He didn't even speak that much then. And the guy took out the card to pay with or something, and he's like, money! It's like, where the fuck does that come from? It's just, he fucking cracks me up. Wizards have a low constitution. Sickness is always a risk. See, Woolly Ram has read the Dragonlance books. He knows. And this was actually something we discussed. And we're like, yep, it's like Raistlin. you know, in the Dragonlance books. It's just low constitution. It's only got a few hit points. So yeah, he was out for a week. Shame, the poor guy. He took a week off to come help me with stuff, and then he spent basically a week in bed. So it sucks. AJ, same here. I found Peterson just as I was waking up to the evils of this world. Vox showed me the con. Yeah. Peterson was placed to prevent people like us from reaching the narrow path. Indeed. And so is Milo. And Milo is, to some extent, even more dangerous than Peterson. Peterson appeals really to the Protestants, but Milo is going after the hardcore Catholics, would-be hardcore Catholics. That's where he's going with that. That's why I came after him pretty hard. And he's still doing the same shit. I just don't have time to update the latest Freemasonic crap he's been up to. But there's one picture of him like, rubbing his eye as though he just woke up with a Lauren Wilske shirt on or whatever. But it's really just another Masonic signaling thing. And then he's doing this reading of the Bible as though it was just casual with 3 different cameras in a studio, and it's like, who the fuck needs some weird random Freemasonic fag to read him the Psalms to them? It's like, read them yourself. Thanks for the great conversation, everyone. See you out of here. Bye, Caleb. Enjoy your apple pie. Cordell says your son is a genius. Yeah, all my kids are pretty smart, actually. They really are, but they're certainly unconventional. My daughter's got a very subtle, well-developed, dark sense of humor. They all have a very dark sense of humor. The little one, I think she might be the smartest one of the lot. She literally, when she was 2 months old, she actually said hello. She literally said it a few times. I have it on video somewhere. And now she's 1 year old, and she'll repeat pretty much any word you say, and she knows what it means. Like, she's not just saying the sound. She understands what the word means. So it's like, Papa is dad, and obvious stuff. But she'll say like random word. Like the other day, my wife brought it to bed. She said, "Oh, this is new. Check this out. Say good morning to her." I said, "Good morning." She's like, "Morning," and then she comes and gives you a kiss. It's awesome. But the other day, she said to my wife, "Dark," because it was dark outside the window. It's dark. Yeah, it's like they're smart, but they've got like their own little / autistic, weird, imperious. I mean, that little, my wife says she's more scared of the little one than all the other ones, because she's like, man, when she wants something and she doesn't get it, she's like, "Ugh!" And she's the sweetest little thing, but she's not patient. The ad for his Bible reading was disturbing. I didn't see the ad, but yeah. What book reading needs multiple angles of the narrator? Exactly. It's completely Masonic. And do you see on his lapel, he always has this little sun thing? On his suit, he's got like literally a sun dial thing. It's like, what's that about? What's that got to do with Catholicism? But just the way he draped his crucifix with his gay masks and his gay rosaries and a Burger King crown. Do you have chickens or anything yet? No, I don't. I'm thinking about it, but look, I'm not a farmer. I've never been a farmer. I never will be. I know I may have to do it, and frankly, I kind of hate domestic animal poultry. They stink. That's why I need a bunch of serfs, so that they can, if they're going to do the chickens, I'll even apportion land for them. I'll say, look, you know what? You do the chicken stuff day, you do the rabbits, you do the cows, whatever, sheep, whatever you want. You do it there. We'll build you a nice fence so that you don't encroach into the rest of my land. And you take most of it. You just give me enough to feed my family, You can sell the rest. You can make money at it. I don't care. Just keep it the fuck away from me. That's pretty much. Indeed, sundials are symbolic. They're pretty easy to take care of. Yes, I know that. My grandmother had chickens and stuff, and let's put it this way. I would rather spend my time oiling weapons and, I don't know, loading bullets or fucking teaching people shit or building something. I'm not, my whole line for the last 800 years, everyone in my family line that I can trace was either some kind of warrior, crusade, literal crusader, fighter, explorer, hunter, and they all just almost nomads. They very rarely put roots down in just one place. And when they did, it was, they built something and they still roamed all over the place and affected things like hundreds of kilometers from where they lived. I'm more the hunter-gatherer kind of stock than the agricultural created civilization stock, so. He started that Bible reading projects for Rick Wall's Protestant Church. Oh, Scorpio. Look at us, teaming up with the Gammas against the Freemasons. We'll make a Catholic out of you yet, Chief Gamma. Holy Ram, I might have to dive into some occult symbolic matrices for the stream. Don't you go getting yourself in places you can't get out of. Cordell, I have ducks, and they're a blast to watch walk around in a convoy. Ducks are cool. I feel a little bit bad about how many I hunted. I really like duck hunting, though. It's probably the type of hunting I probably like best, but, well, that's legal anyway. Mumber Tharek says, do you think the Masonic exotic symbols are for the individual displaying them, for signaling fellow baddies, for the normies as some kind of contract law or subliminal crap, or just mocking us? It's both. They need to signal to each other to know that they're part of the same team. It is also mocking us because they think we're just cattle. And now that it's so prevalent, they may start doing it a little bit less or changing the signals. Although I don't think they care that much because they think they've won already. And yeah, like TVCL says, all of the above. Holy Ram, any hermit scholars in your family line? To a certain extent, we are all a little bit hermitical scholars because we generally don't like other human beings too much, which is why we're very good at kicking their ass and killing a bunch of them in order to, secure the area. And we are both, well, I'm thinking, my dad, my grandfather, we are, without wanting to, sound arrogant about it or whatever, but the classical concept of a warrior is somebody who's well educated, who's read the classics, who knows something about art, music, painting. I'm ignorant about music, but I like it. I recognize what's good. I'm surprisingly, to my own surprise, quite good actually at painting watercolors. I've read a lot. I am, again, surprisingly, because I hated what they made us read in school, but I'm surprisingly a decent poet. I can write poetry quite well in Italian and English. But my best work is private work, so it's stuff I wrote for people I care about or women I used to know or whatever, and it's not public. I doubt it'll ever be made public. Maybe after I'm dead, I don't know. But and I've read a lot, really a lot of books. I've read thousands and thousands of books, so I have definitely, the number of books I've read is in the thousands, not the hundreds, it's thousands. So plural, and I don't know how many. I can't tell you if it's like 2,000 or 7,000. I don't know, but it's a lot. Keep in mind that when I was just when I was doing my A-levels or whatever comes after O-levels in England for about 2 years. On average, I used to read about 3 books a week. So that was just for those 2 years. I probably read in excess of, if you think of there's 104 weeks, and over the holidays I'd read more. So, about an average of 3 or 4 books a year. I probably read 3, 4, maybe 500 books in those 2 years. That's just those 2 years. And I was, between the ages of 16 and 18 or so. And I'd read plenty of books before that. I started reading full books by the time I was 6, 7. Initially, like books on pirate, but there were books for young adults or sort of adults. Then I started reading thrillers that were like for adults by the time I was 9. I read the proper full-blown big book of Tarzan when I was 10. I read The Lord of the Rings when I was 12. I read Shogun at age 13. I reread Lord of the Rings later, and I enjoyed it much more because as a 12-year-old, there's just too much stuff in there you can't relate to. So, C. Wilkinson says, if the Masonic infiltration started shortly before Vatican II, no, it didn't. It started 300 years before that. What of significance happened late Middle Age or early Renaissance? Well, obviously what happened is the so-called Protestant Revolution, which opened the doors to Satanism. The 1520, 1500, 1521, when the Protestant rebellion happened, that opened the door to all sorts of heresy. And the Illuminati were founded in 1700 by Adam Weishaupt, which was really a branch of Judaic Talmudism changed to something else. In Italy, you can't do the history of the Catholic Church without doing the history of Italy. And that's why, I strongly suggest you get my book, Reclaiming the Catholic Church, because I go through all the stuff there to some degree. The Carbonari were the Italian equivalent of the Illuminati / Freemasons. They changed name, but their name is Legion. But they've been infiltrating the church, effectively and efficiently and intentionally and directly, at least minimum since the 1700s. They were deeply in there already by the 1800s, and if you read the Pope Pius X encyclicals and so on, it's obvious. So, AJ says, this has been wonderful. I'm going to head out. I hope everyone has a wonderful night or day wherever they are. Thank you, Curtin, for the stream. You're welcome, AJ, and thank you for being here. And we always enjoy having you around. Cordell says, it's amazing how beautiful God made birds like ducks and other animals in general. I've had them for several months, and sometimes I lose track of time enjoying their colors. Ducks are really cool. Woolly Ram, is the saxophone of the end days sealed and safe? It's right here behind me, but because I do the streams late and the kids' room is like, the bedrooms are all like next to each other, so I can't really do that. But if I do a daytime stream, I'll show you the trumpet calls of God for the end times. TVCL, God bless, AJ, take care, indeed. The books I've read is in the teens. Oh, you've only read tens of books? Dude, you gotta fix that. Look, do me a favor, read The Crusades by Harold Lamb, of Iron Men and Saints. That's what it's called. But if you really want to do yourself a bigger favor, first read God's Battalions by Rodney Stark, which is a very short book, gives you an overview of the Crusades, so that when you read The Crusades by Harold Lamb, you've got a context. And if you don't want to become a crusader after you've read that book, there's something wrong with you. Okay? And then I suggest you read Reclaim the Catholic Church. Woolly Ram says, I like slugs, not sure why, but watching those little clumps of snot gloop about after the rain cheers me up immensely. I like slugs too. They taste delicious if you eat snails, escargot. I got a bunch of them when we first got here, and I was going to cook them all up. But, something sort of happened with one of my kids, and I was like, okay, if this actually works out, I'm going to let all those slugs go. and it worked out, so I let all the slugs go. So I don't know if I'll ever eat escargot that I pick myself, but we'll see. Freeman says, when I die, I hope there's a library with all the books I've read. Well, you gotta make it happen, dude. Henry says, good night, warlords, henchmen alike. Good night, Henry. Naventilian, one of my favorite phrases I've learned recently is the Protestant revolt. Yeah, it is. It's a rebellion. It's rebellion against God, of course. And, well, I think I'm going to call it a night because thoughts on musicals, Michael Peckar. What, you mean as in films? I can't stand them, never could. I just put one on for the kids. I thought, it was Beauty and the Beast, and I thought it was going to be the film version of Beauty and the Beast, so I was going to watch it with the kids, but it started out as a musical, and I was like, do you want to watch this? And the monkey was like, no, I don't really like this. I'm like, oh, good. So, I don't know. As films, I don't like, but, opera, which I've only been to one, which was a Giuseppe Verdi one, is actually good if you get a decent one. Nothing modern, Caleb says, I've read Reclaiming the Catholic Church, had it done in a week or two. The others are on my list. Okay. Oh, good. You've read important books then. If you want an overview of humanity that'll blow your socks off, then I suggest you also read The Face on Mars. Nothing to do with Catholicism, and you'll also see the progression that I went from, how I was in The Face on Mars to how I am now. It's quite a change. Good night. Kurgan says, Willie Ram, good night to you all. No, in theater, film, musicals. Oh, in theater. I've not been to many. The one that I went to was an orchestra of Giuseppe Verdi. The orchestra was led by the number 3 Russian guy in the world, orchestral leader or whatever they're called. And I didn't know that when I saw him, but I recognized immediately. I saw this guy's world class, and then I found out later he's like number 3 in the world considered. The acting and the costumes are absolute shit because it was modernized, but if I closed my eyes and I just listened to the music, I could tell what the story was about, which I was ignorant of. So yeah, I would say good. Good music is good music. I also saw Phantom of the Opera and Cats, I think, and I enjoyed them as well. I also saw Lion King. I don't know if that counts, but they were all good. I enjoyed all of them. So yeah. I'm gonna find that book you told me about. I wrote it down. Okay. We mentioned a few books, so if I get a chance, I'm gonna write down the list underneath. Hey Kurgan, can I email you sometime? Just some Kurganite question. Yeah, go for it, mate. That's no worries. All right, guys. Thanks for your company and enjoying your day too. Peace, Kurgan, and thanks for the stream. Peace? There is no peace, boy. We're the church militant, remember. Farewell, chatlings. See you, Woolly. God bless. Yeah, thank you all. I'm going to say good night. God bless every single one of you. And yeah, email me stuff about the Kurgan things and whatever. Just let me know. Good night, and may God look after you and your loved ones.